because when you're doing the episode, you're in the moment. Mm-hmm. But if you go back and listen to it, you'll have a pretty good memory of what maybe he said, what someone said at the beginning of the conversation versus the end. And then you might be like, oh, okay, those two things don't line up, that maybe because you were in the moment, you didn't notice. So,
yeah.
But,
so that little, obviously nothing with names that we just talked about, but that little section, let's start the podcast here. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, man.
That's a good insight, man. And it's funny because I was thinking about, before we get started, I like your podcast. I like what you're doing with it. You're getting better at it.
Thank you.
Like I can tell it's incremental, right? With the way you're getting. How often do you shoot?
It's a little bit variable because, it depends on how often I can get people booked right now.
I feel that. Well, first of all, cheers, dude. Cheers. It is good to fucking see you. We'll talk about the show last night, but continue.
So yeah, it depends on how regularly I can get people booked. My goal is once a week right now. I think end game, but like to the point where I'd be really happy with twice a week. I think less or more than that might be a little bit saturated.
I agree.
So,
because I went through that exact same fucking thing, and you work full time.
Yep.
You're not married, are you?
I'm going to be very soon.
You're engaged, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you got a relationship. Like, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. People think you're just sitting down and being a monkey on camera for a few hours, and no, you're not. So shooting more than 2 episodes a week, I have found consistently. Mm-hmm. You have some, I'm sure you already do have some late nights, but you have some late nights.
Mm-hmm. Especially because it's not just shooting. I got the editing figured out with an auto editor.
What do you use?
So I'm using Descript.
Okay.
I went into a rabbit hole figuring this out. I looked at AutoPod, and I didn't already have Adobe. So I looked at the price of that, and Descript was... It's weird how you think that you would, when you were looking for something like this, people would be very upfront and specific about, hey, our software actually auto edits like cuts back and forth between, podcast clips on, multiple camera angles. But people are so not forthcoming with that. There's like auto editing, but it's not really auto editing. Like maybe it adds a transcript, but it's not actually doing the cuts, which is the part that takes the time.
Someone lied to you on the internet.
They were just being vague. You know what I mean? Like, I already know not to trust them. So I did a bunch of research, and I found, because like someone else has got to have done this, right? Because they didn't want to pay, fucking, like, if with AutoPod and Adobe, something like $50 to $60 a month. If I could find a better deal,
minimum. Because like I thought that Adobe was just like my $35 a month ish,
right?
But I got an email that was like, hey, you've been using a student account. After this date, it's going to go up to $59.99. I'm like, $60 a month.
Yeah, bro.
What the fuck?
Dang.
Yeah.
So, although I will mention they have better prices if you buy a year subscription. All of the subscription services do that are kind of in that auto editing realm. But so I found this other software, Descript, which is the only other software I could find where someone was like I could see proof in like a video of someone going through and showing me that like, yes, this actually does what I want. And it's like $30 a month, but then you only have a certain number of editable hours that you get to use. And it's 30 hours, but it's 30 hours per camera angle. So if you have a 2 camera angle podcast, you get 15 hours a month for $30 a month.
Fuck that. I
was like, and I did the math, and you can buy a little bit extra hours for a little bit more a month.
I'm sure you can.
And and I did the math, and it's like until I get to about 40 hours, so 20 hours per camera angle per month, then Descript is going to be cheaper for me. And that's where I'm at right now. Because like I said, I'm aiming for about 1 podcast a week. Podcasts usually run between an hour and a half to maybe 3 hours on average. So my goal is once a week, and my actual average, what I've achieved, is closer to 3 times a month. So almost once a week.
Yeah.
But so that's what I went with.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. I looked for a few. I don't think I found Descript, but I looked for a few, and I was like, well, this hour, because I did the math too for like how many hours I do a week, how many I do a month, and it fluctuates. I'll have podcasts happen that aren't that aren't planned.
I'm proud to announce that the podcast is now officially sponsored by the fine people over at Chop Chili Company. Guys, this is some of the best chili you can get here in the state of New Mexico, and they are online as well as in stores. They can be found at Smith's, Albertsons, Sprouts, John Brooks, and Lowe's Corner Market. They have 3 amazing flavors that you see here, and they also have frozen green chili that you can get online. Go on over to the website, chopchilico.com, and get yourself some amazing chili today. Podcast is now officially sponsored by the amazing people over at High Desert Relief, a premier herbal destination right here in the state of New Mexico. They have extremely well-trained and knowledgeable staff that are more than happy to help you find what you're looking for or try something that you maybe have never thought of. They have 2 locations here in Albuquerque, 1 in Santa Fe. All 3 will be listed right here and in the description of this episode. All 3 offering legendary products at absolutely legendary prices, including this awesome merch that they were so kind enough to gift me here. All of this can be found at all 3 of their locations. Again, big thank you to the guys over at HDR for supporting. Now back to the episode.
Like, for instance, I went to Quesada's a couple weeks ago. A-Marie from last night was hosting at Quesada's. I went to go see her and Annie Letterman. Turns out the host, or the feature act is a guy that I knew from Kill Tony. Didn't know him, but I knew him from Kill Tony. I followed him on Instagram. A-Marie brings my pot up to him in the green room. He tells her to tell him to text me. I want to do a podcast tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
So it's like, boom. Now I have an extra 3 hours.
Right.
Because we went for 3 fucking hours. It was Brian Sullivan, amazing fucking guy. We go for 3 hours. And if that's not in the budget for this editing nonsense, then, it's not exactly going to be copacetic. But, yeah, I think you're doing the right thing. Have you thought about doing, like, seasons? Like, what's your methodology? How far into it are you right now?
In terms of
doing the podcast? How long have you been doing it by now?
So I started recording at the beginning of September last year. Right. Which is when I had you on. I had you on for the 3rd episode, but when I had you on and for the first 3, the podcast didn't exist yet. There was I made a teaser for it, but because I wanted to release all 3 at the same time, the 21st of September, I believe. Oh yeah, because of the Earth, Wind, and Fire song. So it officially launched in September, the middle to end of September. So October, November, December, January, February, March. So it's been out for 6 months now. Okay. I guess a little bit closer to 6.5 since I've actually been recording it.
Okay, that makes sense.
And 15 episodes so far.
That's not bad. It's not bad at all. I mean, because that's 6 times 4 is 24, so 24 possible. That's not bad at all.
Yeah.
If you're doing 1 a week, especially if you're just starting. Because I asked about seasons because that's how I first did it. Was like, okay, do I even fucking have 10 people that want to go on camera with the 10 episodes of a season? Then I took a 2-month break, I think. Month and a half, 2-month break. So are you trying to maintain one episode a week? If you mind me asking, how booked out are you right now?
I have 3 podcasts booked right now.
There you go.
So, and
feels good, right?
Yeah, it does. Well, here's the thing, because I've been there before. After the first comedy show that AJ and I put together on back in January, I got a bunch of people booked, probably like most of the way through February, and I got a little cocky
because you had what's his fucking name? The dude with the didgeridoo.
Yeah, Micah
Rivera. There we go. You had him on, and then
I had Slums on because I met Leroy at the comedy show.
Right.
And then Leroy's girlfriend is Josie, the singer of the Mango Cakes.
Right.
So he got me connected with her. I'm trying to think of any other. I mean, I had AJ on for another podcast, so we could kind of tease the next show. A little bit after that, that's when Amanda saw my message. So I just got like back to back for like 2 months booked. And I got a little cocky, so I wasn't reaching out as much. And then it starts to get to the end of February, and I'm like, I have no podcasts booked, so I better start reaching out. Yeah. And then I'm like, oh yeah, people, when I reach out, like 20% of them respond, 10% of those, or not 10% of those, but 10% total actually book something, and 0% of those people book something within the next week. So if I if I don't have something booked within the next week or two, then I'm not going to have any podcast in the next week or two. So I went out, virtually, and, started messaging a bunch of people, and I got 3 more booked. But like, I got more work to do because, by the time I get to recording the second one, I need to have more than just that next one booked so I could maintain that once a week target.
I'll be honest, man. I was shocked when you had Amanda on. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Oh shit. And she's awesome. She's awesome, man.
Yeah.
That was a cool episode. I need to have her back on. She's real cool.
You've only had her the one time?
Yeah. Yeah, I had her the one time. And because that was in I went on a fucking spree. And when I had her on, she was in the middle of, I think, 10, 15 episodes I had booked. And I was booked out for 4 or 5 months of just 2 a week, I think, or some shit like that. Just going and going and going, just somersaulting. And that, I got cocky, and that turned into 3 a week for maybe a month and a half. And I was like, okay, no, we're done. And then I did that kind of again at the end of February. I had 3 a week, 2 or 3 a week for a couple weeks in a row. So I took the beginning of March off. And I just have to reschedule a couple people that I canceled on because I was like, look, I have all these episodes. I was honest with them. I was like, I've got a bunch of episodes already recorded and I have dry heat on Saturday. So I can't.
Right, time-wise.
I need to focus on going to open mics, and then I need to focus on writing and practicing because that was make or break.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because that was going to set me up for how well I did that night. And maybe this is right or wrong, could be debated, but how well I did on that night was going to decide on how confident I felt about last night and how confident I felt about Thursday coming up.
What have you got on Thursday?
Ovado. Yeah. By the time this comes out, Ovado would have already happened. And I fucking killed it. And even that's a fucking stacked lineup too. Cause and this isn't a knock on Ovado, but typically Ovado is and I told Sarah this and she agrees. So I don't think it's a knock on that venue, but it's typically where all the beginners get their first stage, their beginning stage time at, because it's a seasoned comic. I wouldn't say veteran, but seasoned comic that hosts it, Carla Vasquez.
Yeah.
You had her on the second show. And then beginners, and then the headliner is somebody who is, either seasoned or a veteran, well-rounded either way, right? But on fucking Thursday, it's only me, Tyler Lovely, and Zach Abeda. I didn't find that out until last night. So now I have to fucking bring it. You know what I mean? I have to I'm not going to bomb my ass off while those two guys are on the bill too.
Right.
That's a traditional comedy show right there. Host, opener, feature, headliner. Typically they have 4 or 5 people at Ovado. It's more of a showcase type shit like it was last night. But the reason why I wanted to jump off of that first line you were talking about, how do you feel you've gotten better as a podcaster? Do you feel like you've gotten better?
Yes. Although some of the things that I've realized recently, I have yet to capitalize on. Although I have capitalized on them in the past, but I didn't realize I was doing it. And that is that I need to be in the flow of talking to people and being in conversation with people and opening myself up to them and their interests. I guess I was in a good place for a while during kind of the beginning of my podcast. And then I think I started getting stressed out with work. And then I wasn't being social at all outside of the podcast. And if I have only one podcast a week, then it's that's my only time when I'm being social and I'm going into it rusty. And then it's it's not as good as it could be. Yeah. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've learned. And I have noticed it too, because the first time I had AJ on, and it might kind of be the reason why we hit it off so well. But I had another guy on the same day. So I don't know what I was doing earlier that day or earlier that week, but so I had a podcast and it was a good podcast. And by the time I was done with that podcast, I was flowing, I was feeling saucy. So then when AJ came on, I was just ready to go and we were just going. So I can do that. But I fall out of that if I'm not practicing it regularly. So there's a lot of ways for me to practice that I enjoy, like downtown, just going downtown and talking to people. That is my fucking shit, dude.
What?
Yeah,
Really?
bro. Yeah, dude. I usually have like a mission too, but I'm also like down there to talk to people.
No shit.
Yeah.
Because AJ was telling me that last week when we shot that you're going to do like a man on the street type thing.
We were, yeah.
Yeah. How'd that go?
So, well, it actually didn't quite happen. So the plan was, because we knew we were going to be co-hosting, it's like, let's get in a situation where we're going to be like in front of people live, and we're going to be having a good time. We're going to try to be like, riffing off of each other, doing stuff like that, improvisation, and also be there together so we can get the flow of what it's like to do that with each other without stepping on each other's toes. So we plan to go out on Friday night and kind of do like man on the street, like street interview type thing, and then also promote the show, hand out flyers. So that was the plan. And then Friday comes along, and I end up having like a personal issue that I have to take care of. And AJ, I don't know if he drove out there or if he was just waiting to hear back from me, like, what's the plan? Like, where are we going? And I didn't respond to him because I was taking care of my issue. And then he fell asleep. And then I'm like, oh, fuck, I was going to go do that with AJ. So I look at my phone and I like call him, nothing. And I like text him, nothing. And it's like fucking 12 o'clock at this point. I'm like,
in the morning?
Yeah. So I'm like,
he's asleep. He went to beat him, fall asleep. He went to bed. What the fuck?
So I'm like, well, fucking bars close at 2, so I'm still going out. You know what I mean? Like I'm not, like, AJ and I are going to be able to do this, but I could still go promote the show, and I could still get saucy. I could still get loose and, flowing. So I go out there with, I've got like 80, probably like, I think 4x6 handouts for the show with the poster on them. And then I've got 30, like, kind of, standard 11x8 or whatever, like printer size pieces of paper that I'm planning on like sticking on walls.
Yeah.
So I get out there and just like, because I've been out there to do, different things before and talking to people. So I just start, going up to people and like, hey, do you guys like comedy? Do you guys like comedy shows? Well, we got a free one going on Monday night. That was basically my line. And then, usually followed by, we're going to have food. It's over at Tractor Brewing. We got drinks. But there's a real life leprechaun going to be there, pointing at Jake, because he's the fucking Lucky Charms leprechaun on the poster. So, and that was a pretty good line. I think like 90% of the people I approached were interested and took a handout. And I went through the first 80 handouts pretty quick, and I hadn't put up any of the posters, and I'm like, I'll just hand these out, because it's like, I feel like if you give something to someone, the chance of them actually showing up is going to be higher than if they just see it on a wall somewhere. So
yeah, no, you're not wrong.
So then I was just handing out the remaining like 30 like full-sized pieces of paper, and I think I probably got there at about, I don't know, a little bit after 12, like 12:15, and I think I left at like 2:15. So I handed out 110 flyers in about 2 hours.
Good for you.
So,
well, you know what you were doing in like comedy terms? Barking. You ever heard of that? All right, so that's a thing from what I've been told. That's mostly in New York. It kind of happens in LA, but not really. But it's a big thing in New York where I don't know if they do it post COVID and shit, but where they would newer comics that are working at whatever comedy club, they will go out and they'll stand on a corner in the vicinity of the club and hand out flyers to the show that's going on that night. So there's handing out flyers.
That's a fucking good idea. Doing it the same night.
Yeah, that's what well, I mean, that doesn't really work out here in Albuquerque. Because think about it, like in New York, everyone works.
Right.
Well, if you're doing a later show in Albuquerque, like if Dry Heat was doing like a 10:30 show, maybe it would work for their 9:30 show, because people start kind of creeping out around 9:30, 9:45, 10. They start walking around Central right that work. Monday night wouldn't have worked. Right. Because nobody's really walking around. It's 7 o'clock at night. Yeah. People are still fucking trying to get home, let alone fucking go out and do something, right? So, but anyway, yeah. So what these newer comics do at these clubs, whether they work there, they're trying to work there, whatever it is, they stand on these corners and they hand out flyers and shit. Like, if you, I don't know how much TV you watch in your free time, but if you want a good show to watch that's about stand up, it's called Crashing. It's on HBO. It's with Pete Holmes. You know who that is? He did College Humor Batman.
Was he? Well, I've seen that skit.
Yeah.
Is he in the skit?
He's Batman.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
What's the like have you seen the one where Batman's trying to figure out about death? Like Penguin is played by Patton Oswalt, and they're teaching him about death. Like he throws the batarang at the dude's head, and I said, okay, it's this. Watch, I'll show you a picture of Pete Holmes. But anyway, Pete Holmes is a really good stand-up, and he plays the main guy. And so like there's episodes where he'll be standing out this dude.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So he'll be like standing out of the corner and he's like handing out flyers, and they've got pictures of comics that aren't going to be at the fucking show, but they're still trying to get people in the door, right? And he's handing out flyers. And he goes, Jerry Seinfeld's going to be there. Jerry Seinfeld's going to be there. And the guy goes, Jerry Seinfeld is at your comedy club right now. He goes, oh, a guy like Jerry Seinfeld is going to be at the club today. Oh, fuck you. And they walk right. But yeah, you went out barking for fucking, you might be the only person associated with comedy that's barked in this city in years.
Maybe.
Yeah, I think that's cool, man. Like you went out there and you did the fucking footwork. That's what I do a lot of mornings for my job. Like I'm a recruiter for a security company, but what I'll do is I'll go out with flyers and like I'm the asshole that'll put on somebody's car, or I'll fucking tape it to a fucking to like a light post or to a fucking a bus stop and shit like that. Because I mean, I might as well.
Right.
So, and it keeps me out of the office in the morning, so that's nice. How do you feel the show? Let's start with last night and we'll work our way back, I guess, because it gets more general as we go back. But since it's so fresh, we are filming literally 24 hours after the latest comedy showcase at Tractor. From your perspective, how do you feel that went?
So the comics, very impressed. No complaints there. I thought everyone did really good, and a couple people really killed. In particular, I thought Chuck did really good, especially because I've seen Chuck a couple times at open mics, and seeing him at the show on Monday, he was like, whew, he'd gotten way better since I saw him last. And I personally really liked his set too. Jake I knew was going to be good because I'd seen him before. I hadn't seen Eddie or Anne-Marie before, and I really liked both of their sets too. And you did good too.
And you sit there with the microphone, you fucking dweeb. Thanks, man.
So as far as the comedians went, I was very, very pleased with that.
Yeah.
No complaints about the venue. Everything went great at Tractor. The bartenders did their job. People were getting drinks. Food trucks were doing great. We had one vendor there. I didn't talk to him. I hope he was making some sales. Let's see.
It was the black food truck, right?
There were two food trucks.
Literal, like, I'm not saying like a black person ran it, but like a black food truck.
There were two.
The truck was black, right?
That was one of them, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So that was like kind of more like burgers, kind of like American food.
That was a new guy, right?
That was the new guy.
Yeah.
And then the Mexican food truck with the bomb-ass quesadillas, which has been there every time.
Their quesadillas are fucking awesome. Their burrito, dude, I ordered a burrito before my set. I was hungry. I was like, I'll take a couple bites of this and just not get groggy, but just enough so I'm not like thinking about food when I'm on stage. Dude, I took 2 fucking bites of that thing. I was like, oh, this is fucking good. All right, sounds good. I pour a little bit of that red sauce on there.
Oh, dude, that shit is... I should have warned you, bro. That shit will fuck you up.
Dude, that was... I was sitting next to Nevin, and I was like, bro, my mouth is numb. I don't know if I can speak. So I started chugging my fucking soda, dude. Like, oh my... It was good, though.
Oh, you did that before your set.
Yeah. It was very good. It wore off before my set.
Good.
And the bartenders were nice enough to make me an old-fashioned, so that was nice. That wasn't even on their menu. I was just like, do you have anything like an old fashioned? And the lady was like, do you want an old fashioned? I'm like, yeah. Yeah.
That shit, that spicy sauce. Like, I did the same thing. I think it was I did the first or second show. Like, I dunked my quesadilla in there like it was just sauce. Now, this is like, you gotta go light. And you can only maybe do 1 or 2 dips per, like, quesadilla slice.
You gotta drizzle.
So, exactly.
That's all it is. You gotta drizzle. Or you just fucking send it and you allow yourself to become numb. Because it tastes, that's the fucked up thing. Is it tasted amazing.
Yes.
It was just hotter than Satan's taint. And I was like, my God.
Yeah, dude.
God. Okay, so anyway, so the food trucks were good.
So, the show out, like the number of people there, that was the smallest crowd that we've gotten out of the 3. Which, I mean, that comes down to me and AJ promoting pretty much. So that, and I think... I thought the show was good overall, but I think it would have been better if we had more people in there. More people, you get more energy, more laughs, more contagious laughter. So, yeah, definitely I'd like to see more people in there.
And I will say this, too, because I knew you were going to say that. And to put it in perspective, like, yes, that was the smallest crowd you guys had. You guys probably went from 69 people the last time to like 23, 25, right?
Somewhere in there.
Around there. So it's a big drop off, and you shouldn't ignore that, right? On the other hand, you got 25 people to a free comedy show on Monday night in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
That's not nothing.
Yeah.
Because again, obviously I love the comedy scene here. I'm slowly integrating myself into it. But it's growing, right? Like the local scene is growing. People are going to fucking show out for Kevin Hart and Trevor Noah and fucking Felipe Esparza when he comes. And like, that's going to happen. And I love that these big acts are coming. Don't get me wrong, right? But that's a constant, right? But it's like, okay, how many people are we going to get into a comedy show? Let's just say a free comedy show on a Friday night. You're going to average, like I remember I went to, fuck me, it was this brewery up in Santa Fe. I forget, I think it's called Brew Lab. I don't want to call it that because I don't think it's called, it might be Brew Lab. It's one that Karen Carson does. And that was an outdoor show. It was really cool because they have like a little like outdoorsy, like almost playground looking type venue. And it was kind of cool. A bunch of turf and shit, like picnic tables and stuff like that. But that one, it was on a Friday night, 7:30. I think it was $5 to get in. Really like well-known brewery in Rio Rancho. 25 people.
So about the same size, maybe just a little bit bigger than what we had.
Like maybe 30. But the only difference between that though is like that. Let's be honest. That one is in a way better part of town. It's a Friday night, 7:30 prime time, and there were more people in the brewery drinking and eating, like having dinner. It's like a dinner type brewery too, where you can actually order like. Apparently their pizza's fucking amazing, but like you can have dinner there, right? Like it's one of those breweries where they allow families to come in, right? Like kids and shit. But there were still more people doing that than there was in the comedians fucking or in the comedy show.
Right.
Do you hear that?
The very, very faint humming?
Yeah.
I do.
Like that. Is that a vacuum?
It sounds like something in this room. Like maybe this. Or your laptop. I bet it's your laptop.
What is that? It's something outside.
Oh, is it?
Something else.
Okay.
It won't pick up on the legs.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should be fine. Because like, it's not my fan from the bathroom. Yeah, it's a totally different sound. That's something outside. I don't know what the fuck that is. Sounds like a pressure washer, but like nobody runs a pressure washer that hard. All right. Anyway, my point is though like it seemed like a big drop off, right? Because numerically it was, but if you take all the like everything into account, pretty good show out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, it finishes right after I get up and like look around for it. The motherfuckers told you. Anyway, so yeah, it was a good show out, dude. It was fun. It was fun. I had a good time.
Yeah. Me too.
I thought it was fun. And like I was telling AJ earlier today, like, I'll be honest, because I knew it was going to be, even if we had upwards of 70 people there, right? I knew that it was going to be a test in my like projection ability, right?
When you say projection, you mean your ability to project your energy into the audience?
Yeah, yes. Project my energy, project my voice, my like mannerisms that I want to incorporate into my set, and then it was going to be a test of my stage presence in general. And that was definitely tested last night. For sure.
Oh, yeah.
For fucking sure. Between the fucking mics not working, AJ talking over me, which, not gonna lie, I think I texted him. That kind of shouldn't do that as a host. And then just also like not getting the same energy back. Because I'll be honest, like, it was an ego check too. Because I didn't do the same exact set as I did. I took a little more chances in that set than I did in my dry heat set. And my dry heat set was calculated. I was like, I'm not fucking this up. I know every word I'm going to say. I know exactly how I'm going to say it. Like I had it down to the point where I racked the mic at 8 minutes. Like they wanted me to do 8. So like right when my set was done, that's when the mic was on the mic stand and I'm walking out the stage. Like I had that like beat for beat. But with last night, I was like, okay, I could take a couple more chances and try some things out, see how they work, see what happens. But it was an ego check, I'll be honest. I was like, fuck, why am I not getting the laughs that this normally gets? What the fuck is going on? Oh, shit. You know what I mean? But I also learned that there's a term called, in comedy, it's actually called biting the bullet. And that's what my opening set was. That was low energy crowd. You're going to go out there and eat shit, but you're going to set the crowd up enough a little bit so the host can feed off of it. And then the following comics can take that and like elevate. You know what I mean? How do you feel? How was it hosting for you? That's your first time ever.
Yeah.
Like doing anything like that.
Well, it was weird because I was co-hosting.
Yeah.
So, and we didn't have a fucking plan of how
you didn't
of how AJ was gonna say shit and how I was gonna say shit. Because if AJ is just gonna say shit, then AJ can just fucking riff, and if I'm gonna say shit, then I can just fucking riff. But if AJ is gonna say some shit and then I'm gonna say some shit, then that's gonna kind of like throw AJ's flow off. And if AJ doesn't know that I'm gonna say some shit and I start saying some shit, then he might interrupt me. Not that happens, but yeah. So
it happens. It happens.
So, which hopefully, I mean, the idea was to work out some of that stuff Friday night, but that didn't happen. So I was a lot less nervous than I thought I was going to be because
That's good.
I mean, I've hosted podcasts, but I've never hosted anything live.
That's so different, dude. Yeah. That is so different, though. And I was telling A. Marie that because she had no idea who the fuck you guys were.
Yeah.
And she was like, are these like comics? Are they like, who are these guys? I'm like, well, AJ's a brand new comic. And then Pierce wants a podcast. That's what 505 Connection is. Because she saw you like putting up the sign. She's like, what the fuck is that? And I was like, yeah, that's the podcast. And like, this is what they do. And they've been doing this for like 3 months now. And she's like, oh, no shit. Good for them. I'm fucking excited because she wants this to grow. Like she's excited when new people show up. She was fucking thrilled when she asked you guys, or when you guys asked her.
Right.
She was thrilled. But yeah, going from just podcasting to I'm not going to host anything anytime soon. I'm doing this shit for almost 3.5 years. Fuck that. I have no desire to fucking host. Well, that's not true. I do. I just don't have the skill for it yet. So for you just to step into it and be like, fuck it.
Let's go for it.
Yeah, that was sick.
It was, it wasn't my idea. It was AJ's idea. And I was like, okay, well, I've seen AJ host and I thought he did good. So it'll just be that plus whatever I can offer, right? Like it'll just be a pretty simple math equation. AJ is adequate plus I can add more than 0, so it should be good.
I can add. Well, okay. I feel like you know this by now, seeing enough comedy shows here in Albuquerque, but there are people that can be a negative asset to a show. That's a thing.
Yeah.
And you go to enough Albuquerque, you go to enough shows, you're gonna see that. I don't mean to shit on Albuquerque, but you go to enough shows, you're gonna see that where people show up and they're like, "You shouldn't be here. You have taken away from what other performers did."
Right.
That's a thing. You know what I mean? Like unless somebody on that lineup or on that showcase is just fucking undeniable, there are people that can take away from other people's sets. Where it's like, damn, these people set up with so much energy, and you just took it and fucking beat it into the ground. There are people that can do that for sure. And you didn't do that, by the way. You didn't do that. It was funny. I was watching you guys host. I felt, first of all, it was a cathartic moment for me when A. Marie went up there and was like, shake my fucking hand. Because when AJ handed me the mic and just walked away, I was like, bitch, like you do comedy?
Yeah.
You know what this is? I was like, but I didn't want to call him out. So like, shake my fucking hand. I was like, yes. Yes. And I get it because you guys are both nervous. You just want to get back to your seats.
I didn't. I don't know about AJ, but I didn't know that was a thing.
Oh, yeah. If you go to any comedy show, when the host is up there, and your next comedian is fucking Johnny Smith, and they're going to go, they shake hands. He grabs the mic and tries to make people laugh. But it was funny watching you do comedy, like host a show, because you would like in the beginning, it's like you're trying to riff back and forth. And then I think you realized what this dynamic was going to be. So you waited for the pauses and then just like punched. Waited for a pause, punch. And that's what it should have been, right?
Right, the whole time.
Yeah. Not necessarily you adding to it, but just somebody being like the lead and then somebody like tagging. Right. You know, like tagging in and like interjecting something to set them up and then they dunk it, like that type of stuff. Where not like completely conversational.
Right.
You know what I mean? But you did a good job, dude, for fucking especially for first time and never having real experience. Like, have you ever been in front of an audience ever?
I have. So I've actually been in front of audiences many times, but not speaking or even projecting my voice. So I'm a musician. So I've played drums in front of audiences many times.
Jesus Christ.
What was that?
What the fuck? Did my phone just connect? That's never happened during a podcast. My phone connected to my that's why, dude, that's why I don't want AI taking over.
Oh, yeah. Well,
my Bluetooth was on and it just decided to connect to my soundbar. Mm-hmm. That's AI.
Yeah.
I don't want fucking Neuralink. What if Neuralink decides to turn you into a fucking walking psychopath?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you, dude. Did you see the first guy they interviewed him talking in front of audiences? This guy is paralyzed, neck down, and they have him in his wheelchair, obviously, but in front of a fucking audience. And it's a panel of people and then a whole auditorium, and they're asking him like, "How does it feel to use Neuralink?" Did you watch that, dude? I'll link that shit to you when we get out of here. Holy fuck! It is weird watching this guy talk about. Because the opening question is, how does it feel? Because he was using Neuralink to move a cursor around on a computer.
So his body is still paralyzed, but
he's moving a cursor with his mind.
Right.
Yeah. And they were like, how does it feel to move a cursor with your mind? And he goes, it's weird. And the whole was like, yeah, well, what if Neuralink is more advanced than we think it is? The AI inside of it, right? It's past the Turing test. Obviously, that's lying to us. And he just makes that motherfucker stand up. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I don't want that shit. Anyway, have you like spoken in front of an audience? Like, ever? Were you a little kid at a spelling bee?
So, okay, so I can think of 2 times, and I'm talking like shards of core memories here. So the first time I was probably in elementary school, and I was I think it was through like the gifted program, but it was in Roswell, and someone in the program knew someone in like one of the local like news stations. So they like prepared like a script for you where like you were going to do a segment where you're going to like, do like a news report on, some sort of thing, like maybe like a scientific discovery. And I think it was live, but I was reading off of a teleprompter and I'd like practiced it before.
Yeah.
And that's weird. Like that honestly is a memory that could have been implanted. Like it's that fucking far back. Like I have very little memory of it. So I was in front of an audience and I think it was live. But very, very much rehearsed, and the audience wasn't really there. And then the other time I can think of when I have actually like spoken in front of an audience like that would have been 8th grade. They had me co-host the school talent show.
Okay.
So
yeah, that's close to it.
Yeah.
And so this is an 8th grader, dude. Like, you're going through puberty, bro. You popped a fucking 2-inch boner right on stage, and everyone would have fucking said, like, look at Pierce. He's got a boner.
Thankfully,
and that's all you got to fucking deal with.
Right.
Dude, I was in fucking elementary school, and we had a school play. It was 4th grade. I will never forget this. I don't remember who the kid was. But we were in a school play. I forget I think it was called like Westward or Go West or something like that. Something about like the Western, like the gold rush and shit, right? And this was like, we were doing the play at like 7:00 at night for like families and shit, right? And we're all in our gay little get-ups. And we're in the school cafeteria. And the cafeteria had a stage. And they walled off with these like really thick curtains. They like walled off an area for us to walk up and like stage left and stage right exits type shit, right? Mm-hmm. And like maybe 10 minutes, 6 minutes even before the show starts, there's a kid like behind the curtain. Like we're all like way behind the curtain. And there's this kid that's like sitting down. Again, we're fourth grade. So how old are you in fourth grade? Like 9?
8 or 9.
8 or 9 years old, right? This kid fucking sitting down, like sitting, like in the fetal position. Like, I can't do it. I don't know. Like fucking losing their mind, right? And I remember as a kid standing like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, what the fuck are we? I thought this was fun. Like, I didn't know this was stressful for people. Like, what the? I've never been like a social kid. You know what I mean? I've never been like somebody that was super outgoing. I was very introverted, like all the way up until starting the podcast. Very introverted. But I remember that as a kid, being like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why are you freaking out? We're in a bunch of stupid little costumes about to go fucking sing and dance in front of parents. Who gives a fuck? Right? Now being an adult, I'm like, oh shit. That's a fucking core memory for that kid for sure. Right. And then you see that in people that try to perform in general for their first time, where they just fucking freeze up. And it's like, oh shit, yeah. Stage fright's a real fucking thing. It's not for nothing. And that's why I'm so proud of like seeing people do it for the first time, especially in a fucking comedy setting. It's like as a host, I mean, opinions differ. I don't like it personally when hosts do sets. I think it takes away from the show, to be honest. I think your job as a host is to, in the beginning, you show up, you introduce yourself, you introduce the show. If there's any ground rules from the venue that they like are demanding you say, you obviously do that bit of your job. That's your professional side of the job. You might crack a couple of lines, one here and there, but you are there to introduce yourself in the show, bring your first person up, regardless of how they did, whether they crushed it or whether they bomb, you maintain energy or you bring back energy and you rinse and repeat until the headliner's done. You know what I mean? Like, you're not really there to fucking do a set or to like really open things up. You're there to just present the show, you know? And I think you did a good job of that.
Thank you.
Do you want to do it again? Are you interested in doing it again? Be honest.
Yes, I am. Like, legitimately, I am interested in doing it again.
Okay.
Legitimately, I have a lot of things that I'm interested in doing, and it's not in the top, definitely not in the top 3.
What are you interested in doing right now?
Continuing the podcast, getting more people booked. There's a small list of things that I want to do with the podcast, but we'll just say the podcast. I'm in the process of moving out of my house right now so that I can rent it out. And that is part of a bigger goal, which is to get myself to a point where I can go part-time with my currently full-time job so that I can have more time to do the podcast. And then obviously maintain my relationship with my fiance.
I was going to say, like, you sat your chick down. Hey, listen, we're going to fucking, we're going to live somewhere new here pretty soon, but it's for a good reason.
Yeah.
The podcast is fucking fun, babe.
Yeah.
I love it.
Pretty much.
I fucking love it, dude. So you own that place out there.
I do.
And it's nice. It's a nice little spot, dude. And like, maybe not right now. It's like the everyday, like, Albuquerque citizen. It's not the most prime spot, but everything that's growing around it, it's going to be so different than it is right now, even a year from now. It's going to be so different out there. I mean, like right now, dude, they just got done building the rest of, or not the rest, but like the next big chunk of Netflix that's out there. Because, I'm not going to name the company, but the company that I work for has the security contract for Netflix. And I just had to hire a fuck ton of people to go out there and be security guards out there. And I went and toured Netflix like a month ago, 3 months ago or so. And dude, it is 160 acres.
Holy shit.
It is massive. And they just got done building the next section of it. Dude, it's fucking cool. It is so fucking cool in there. Like, they have like one of the sets that I went through. They're building a lot of them, so that was cool to see the construction of it. But they built, it was for a TV show. I forget what show it was, but they're currently shooting, and it was, I think it's set in modern times, but it was like a Western style bar, right? Dude, they've got fucking beer taps that are real. They've got a soda gun that works, state of the art, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of pool tables, like real hardwood flooring. Like, that is no fucking joke out there.
And that's a set that you're talking about. Yeah.
That's something they're going to tear down in 6 months. Insane. Fucking insane. And then, like, I got a buddy of mine who I've got to reschedule the podcast with, but a buddy of mine is a trainer out at Soul Fitness.
Tyrone?
Yeah, Tyrone. Yeah, you know Tyrone?
Yeah, well, I go to that gym.
Oh, no shit. Yeah. Okay, yeah, so I got to get him I promise you, I'm working on getting you rescheduled, buddy. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I've just been busy. But me and him, Megs, we were in the military together. And that gym out there is fucking awesome. And they're using that for a bunch of Netflix people. Like, he trained a couple of dudes from Queer Eye. Like, I think 9 months ago, something like that. So it's cool, dude. Like, you jumped in at a prime piece of real estate. Whenever you got it, it's good that you got it. And it's a cool little spot, too. It's nice in there. Sure, it has a woman's touch on it, so it makes it better. But, it's a nice little fucking spot. Why do you like podcasting?
Good question. I like people. Ultimately, I like people.
Have you always liked people?
Have I always liked people? No, definitely not. But I have always liked ideas. And what besides that? I guess, ideas covers a lot, but I guess ideas and patterns of behavior. So, when I was younger, and maybe I was I didn't like people as much. Mostly I was focused on myself. But maybe high school, maybe more so college, I became more interested in kind of the people in the world around me, more open to it. Is probably not just interested, but open to it. And then I started finding all of the things that I was already interested in, that I saw in myself, in other people. And not just that I saw that in other people, but that I realized that there was a lot that I was missing by being closed off to that, which that was my tendency when I was younger. So, yeah, that's the essence of it, is I like people and ideas and learning about, the way people behave and the things they do and the reasons they do them and why they do them. Yeah.
I came to the same realization. That was the same way in high school and college, especially being in Roswell and going to NIMI and shit like that. I had my friends, especially through high school. I had my core set of friends, and I'm very thankful that I'm friends with a lot of them still today. Right. Going to college, a lot of them left, or graduated, went off to college, went off to work, went off to the military, whatever. And friend group shortened, but I found new friends, and a lot of them still friends with today. But yeah, it was very much like, even though I'm interacting with so many people on a regular basis, fuck them. I was like, I'm not really interested. And then, like, when it came to my personal time, I never really had much. And I still really don't. Like, I'll never be a club guy. I think that's
like going out to the club and dancing?
Going out to like effects, or even going out to Vegas and partying.
Oh, okay.
I think that's never been appealing to me. You know what I mean? I've never, and maybe that's just because, like, the close knit group of friends that I do have, cracking back a couple of beers, having a whiskey with them is so much fucking fun that I'm like, there is no way Bright Lights and Whores is going to be better than hanging out with my buddies.
Do you like to dance?
No.
Oh, well, if you go out to the clubs for the bright lights and the whores, you'll get tired of that pretty quick. But if you go out to the club for dancing, it never gets old.
This is the voice of reason, ladies and gentlemen. But no, it never really, I've never been a big dancer. I like having a good time, like going out and listening to music, like seeing the slums and like that. I love that. Or like even the Mango Cakes. Like the Mango Cakes, I will never listen to that genre of music on a regular basis. It's just not my thing. But I love seeing those guys because they're so fucking talented and the music's amazing. Like live, it's amazing. You know what I mean? But yeah, I was never really big on just like going out and partying. I went to a couple of house parties like with just friends that I knew, obviously, and I had my party phase in that way. But yeah, until like post-COVID, started the podcast with my friends, and then meeting new people doing it's like, oh yeah, wait. Well, I should kind of asterisk this by saying well-adjusted. Well-adjusted people can be pretty cool. You hearing people speak, they were just saying like why they do things, how they think, what are they into. Like I've gotten to the point, and I got to it pretty quickly, where I was like, you could talk to me about whatever the fuck you want, but if you're into it, and you can like articulate it at least well enough where I can just keep asking questions and I can tell why, or I can see like little shimmers of why you like it. Mm-hmm. This is fucking fun. Mm-hmm. This is kind of cool. Yeah. And of course, it's nice to have sponsors, but even if I loved it when I didn't have sponsors. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I don't make a fucking living off of it, obviously, but I'm very thankful for my sponsors, by the way. I just want to put that out there. Very thankful. But like, it was never about the money. It was about like, this is fucking fun. Mm-hmm. And what I love now that I have a dedicated room for it, and I have like all my comics and shit and all the posters, like when people walk in, like, people I never would have thought liked superheroes or liked comic books, like actually liked comic books. Mm-hmm. They walk in and I'm like, oh, you're a dork too. What's up?
Yeah, yeah.
How we doing? Let's have a conversation. You know what I mean? It's shit like that that's cool. Is this something, I mean, this might be a very dumb question, but I just have to ask, is the podcast something that you see yourself doing just until the wheels fall off?
Pretty much. Or... I mean, I don't really see the wheels falling off, but I do see a potential reason why I might stop doing it would be to pursue something higher. And I thought about that when I started the podcast, and it's part of the reason why it's not the Pierce Mayadag podcast. Because it would still be, my point is, since it's not entirely based around me as a brand, if it got to the point where it was doing really well and it was serving the purpose that I wanted it to, and I thought, well, maybe there's something else I could do that would be even bigger, then it wouldn't be as hard to try to hand it off to someone, like find like a, sub replacement for myself so that I could go on to pursue other things.
Can I give you a piece of advice? A piece of advice that I should have taken when I was first starting it? Put out more clips of yourself.
Yes, my fiance recently gave me that same advice, and I haven't done it yet, but I've started now because when I get my clips, I listen back to the podcast, and if something catches my ear, I write down the time code so that I can go back later and pull the clip out. For the last 3 episodes now, when I do that, I've also been doing that for things that I say, not just things that catch my ear of what my guest has, but things that catch my ear that maybe I say.
Yeah. I agree with all of that. First of all, I agree with all of that. But think about it like this. And this recently dawned on me like 6 months ago. So I was having a conversation with my friend, and she had told me this after like 3 or 4 other people whose opinions I care about told me the same thing. It's like, oh, fuck, maybe I should. People will stick around for your podcast because they like what your guests, like you're in the beginning stage. I'm in the beginning stage. Like they're here for the guests, but you're growing. The better you get at it, you are growing an audience that likes you.
Right. So
then it's like, and that's a weird thing to think. For me, it's a weird thing to think about. Right. Mm-hmm. So that it's like, okay, well, if Pierce thinks it's cool to have whoever insert person here on the podcast, I should listen because they like this person. Right. If I could go back and change one thing about doing the podcast, I would put out more clips of myself because you're advertising yourself as a host more, and you're putting yourself out, you're putting your own personality into it, right? And when I got that feedback over, I was like, "Fuck, maybe that's right." And then one way I recently started thinking about it too was think about all the episodes you've put out, right? You're on 14, you said?
I've released 15.
Released 15. Let's average and say. Each episode is 2 hours long. Say the conversation is more or less even. You've got 15 hours of unused footage of yourself.
Right.
Let's say half of that is interesting.
Right.
Okay, great. You've got 7.5 hours worth of reels that you could, like marketable reels. And that's why I say interesting, right?
Right.
That are marketable reels that you could be using. Whatever the fuck 7.5 times 60 is, that's how many minutes. And then divide that by 30-second reels, right? 45-second reels. That's how many reels you can put on Instagram.
Right.
So much unused footage. So much unused content. And now that I've thought about that, I've like, when I'm working the podcast now, I find myself looking back on older episodes like, what's some cool shit I might have said?
Right.
You know what I mean? And then using that as content when like maybe you have a dead week and you're like,
right.
Well, I don't have a podcast, but I could still advertise an older one. I can still make myself look cool. Fuck it. It's my podcast. I'll make myself look cool.
Right.
I'm fucking cool. Right. You know what I mean?
Like if you didn't have at least an inkling of that idea in your head, then you wouldn't be doing it. So
well, yeah. I certainly didn't have that in the beginning. I just wanted to fuck around in the beginning. But now I've kind of like grown into my own confidence recently. Like within the last like year or so, I was like, oh shit, this is actually kind of like, I might be good at this. That's been the idea over the last like year. It's like, I might be actually good at this. And then comedy kind of accelerated that. And then I'll be real. I'm probably gonna talk my guests' ears off for the next couple of months about this. Getting booked at fucking Dry Heat, fucking that means the world to me that I got booked at Dry Heat. I was like, oh shit! Like I'm at a comedy club on their last weekend. Like, and you've seen this doing the podcast now, kind of interjecting yourself a little bit in the entertainment scene here. Word of mouth travels fast. Does it not?
It does.
It moves quick. What if you're the guy that bombs at Dry Heat at their last fucking thing? Like little insider baseball here, but I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying this. But when we were hanging out in the green room, we were the newer guy. I would say the newer guys. Me, Matthew, AJ, Charm, and Brian, and Zach. We're all hanging out in the back, and Zach had walked in. We're talking shit, and Zach goes, "Yeah, I've been going to the open mics the last like 2 weeks or so because he like announced the show and shit, right? And he'll pop into open mics just to see what's going on, right? He's smart like that." And he goes, I popped into these open mics after I announced the show, and a couple of these newer comics were giving me the look like, hey, dude, why don't you book me? Like that type of shit. So I was like, oh, fuck. Like, and I knew that going into it, that like there were people that were jealous of where I was. You know what I mean? I don't say that like, yeah, be jealous, bitch. I don't say it like that. I'm like, oh shit. Like I know comics. Like I could pull names out that like this is leading up to it, right? Like I knew that there were comics that could have taken the stage that are plus or minus 6 months to a year of me that could have taken the stage. 6 months to a year or so of me, yeah, could have taken the stage and done well. I know comics that could have here in Albuquerque that could have done that. But after the way Saturday went, I'll be honest, could they have done better than that set? I don't know.
Right.
So now I'm like, oh well, fuck. All right, I guess we're here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's a cool feeling. And to tie this all back around, put out more clips to yourself.
I will.
Put out more shit of yourself, dude. And it's just like cool shit to advertise. And if there's another piece of advice I could give you is do not do fucking boosted Instagram ads. Do not do paid ads. They do not help. They don't fucking help. I've gotten more following off of clips even getting like 8,000 views, right? I've gotten more traction off clips getting organic views, 2,000 and above, or like people collaborating. You've found that, right? The collaboration button is huge than I ever would have had off of fucking just. I used to run sponsored ads left and right, dude.
For your clips?
Dude, for clips on like YouTube, and like I got real lazy about it, and I need to get back after it, putting clips on Facebook. Like Facebook clips work. I will say that.
Interesting.
Facebook clips fucking work. If they're good, those work. At least they did a year and a half ago.
And you mean like more than Instagram clips?
No, yeah, I'm saying literally like the same clip you put out. Like, so let's say you start doing clips on YouTube, right? Which is another thing I suggest you do.
Yes. So I've put a couple up, but I'm going back through. And
because my strategy when I first started, and this honestly helped out a lot, and not even just for growth, but just for like the consistency of content. Right, because you have to trudge through. I'm still trudging through. I don't have 1 million fucking followers. I'm still trudging through, right? But my buddy who's producing for me, the big piece of advice that he gave me was you should do an episode every other week. But so if you have like week 1 and week 2, week 1 are clips on YouTube. And then week 2 is the episode. And then you promote the episode with Reels on Instagram.
So are you saying that you put out the clips of the episode before you release the episode?
To advertise the episode.
Before it's come out?
Yes. Because you tease interesting things about the episode. Then the episode drops. People want to watch it to find those clips. And see the context surrounding it. that make sense?
Because, I mean, if the episode's already out, then they might still want to see the episode because of something interesting they saw in a clip. But when that happens, they can't, you're saying then that builds some anticipation.
Yes. And now I've just gotten to the point now where I'm like, I release things simultaneously. So I'll do like, and I'm lazy about clips. I need to get better about it, but I'll do like a reel when the episode is out. Because the reels do okay, moderate, whatever. So it's like they can go find the episode and then it'll, instead of like leading up to the punch, it's like I'm punching first and then teasing things afterwards. Like, hey, just like in case you missed it type shit. Still advertise. Like I'll be advertising fucking Kenny Riley for the next fucking week and a half probably, because I broke that up into 2 episodes. Or to 2 parts rather. But that extended my release windows, and it's just getting more views on your page, even if it's just 5 views. That's 5 extra views you didn't have. And it's just adding to how many numbers you have and shit like that.
Right.
That really helped out a lot too. But yeah, Facebook clips helped a bit. Like I had one come up from 2 years ago, like my memories and shit. And I was like, oh shit, this got like fucking 2,000 views off Facebook. I forgot all about that. I should really get back into that. So I don't know. That's something that might help. Do you have a marketing strategy? Do you have a marketing plan? Do you have marketing ideas?
I mean, at this point, it's get people on the podcast. Like, I gotta
feel bad.
You can't get too off in the weeds if you don't have the baseline super consistent, and I don't have the baseline as consistent as I want it to be. So I have to get fucking people on the podcast, and the more interesting they are to me and the more popular they are, the better. But I got to get fucking people on the podcast.
Yeah.
So, and put out clips too, because the clips get way more views than the posts about the episode, and the episode gets more views after the clips come out.
Yeah.
So the clips fucking work. And people who I've talked to who have seen my stuff, most of them have seen the clips and not the podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
So people,
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. So to become known, like, you got to put the shit out that people are going to see.
Yeah.
And people see the clips. So yeah, get people on the podcast and put out clips. That's the strategy right now. Yeah. And once I get that down, then I'll elaborate. So
yeah, no, I get it, man. Like what it sounds like to me, the underlying thing that's like you only have so much time to dedicate to the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I use that properly? What's the most important? It's putting out content. I get it, man. It's tough. It's fucking tough. How I was gonna say, like, how do you envision the evolution of your studio? Because I'll be honest, dude, and I meant it when I first showed up. You had it way more thought out than I did when I first started. That's for fucking sure. And then I just resulted to, or like default. It's like, okay, how do I copy Rogan the best that I can?
Right. I mean, that's why I got a fucking red curtain. And then the only reason I made the other one green is because New Mexico is red and green, you know? And then I was like, well, Joe Rogan has a sign with the name of his podcast on it behind him, so I'll do that too. And that's my studio. I mean, that's what you see on camera anyway.
Yeah, well, that was unintentional. I'll be honest. My sign behind me was unintentional. That was Nevin being a nice fucking guy. But that's funny as shit. So let's say like you could build out where you are right now. Do you have like ideas for it? Do you have like things you wish you had in there? Like, cause I have my own thoughts on it, but like, especially from a beginner, I want to see like,
right. So not a lot of specific ideas, but in general, I want a dedicated studio room. So I want when I walk in there, and especially when my guest walks in there, to be like, this is the place where the podcast gets recorded. Not, this is the mobile podcast setup in this dude's kitchen, which is what it currently is. So I want a dedicated podcast room, and then I want a little more stuff going on. And I like it for the visual reason, like what you have here. And something you said earlier, I was like, you're fucking right, which is that these pieces, not only do they look good and they make you a little bit more interested and captivated, but they're potential conversation starters. So if I have that stuff in my setup, it's going to make the environment more inviting, and it could potentially be a lead in into conversation, which is the whole point of us being there. So those are the two main things.
And my thing too is like the closest thing to a professional podcast studio, like a studio that I've been on, is with the April Fools, because they shoot their shit out of 519 on Central. Have you ever been there, Studio 519? It's a public access studio where like it's completely free to the public. You just book spots there and you go shoot for however long, whether it's your talk show, a podcast, whatever thing you want to do there. I will say this though, it's just that's the closest thing I've been to a professional studio. I've never been on like have you seen like the behind the scenes of like Flagrant or Your Mom's House or anything like that? Dude, their studio looks lived in on camera, but it's literally a set. Like behind it looks like a movie set. Like they've got all these lights hanging down. They have production people in the back, and they've got like walkways for interns and production staff. Like it's fucking crazy. Like it's a legit studio set. Like for a movie, you would think, right? So then, like I think about it, and I'm like, okay, that's awesome. But like, even if I had the money to build that right now, I don't think I would.
Like why? What? At some point, it seemed like that. What you just described to me seems like quite a bit of overkill from what you have right now.
It is, and so I agree, 100%. And I just think like
what is that all that at?
Well, what does it add? Well, I mean, the podcasts look great. Obviously, they sound great, and there's big production value. I think it's also a bit of a fuck you because it's like they have so much money anyway, right? But then also like, I don't know, man. There's something about being able to express, like, maybe this is kind of dorky, but like, for me, my podcast studio is like my man cave. You know what I mean?
I see.
Like, whatever a man cave was in the 80s and the 90s, that's what a podcast studio is today for bros. You know what I mean?
Right. I do.
The best you can build out your podcast is like building out your man cave. They started out in a garage. And then it moved to me and my girlfriend at the time, our place that we were at, and there's a dedicated room there. And then it moved to where you guys were at, where we literally put up PVC. I put up PVC pipes and shit, but now it's this. This is 100% me, and it's my personality. And I feel like also at the level we are at, where we're still local, we're still working, we're not national names yet, like, you know what I mean? That type of stuff. We have people on the podcast, they're at our same level, if not a couple of steps higher, right? So, but for the most part, they're going to be at the same level as you, just regular ass fucking people, whether they're entertainers or not. So if they walk into a multi-million-dollar production studio, they might be a little intimidated. And it's like, oh, like, what is all this? Am I going to be on TV? Like, what? I thought this was a podcast. Like, what?
Right.
All right. But then
when you get up to the higher level. Is that where you're going with this?
No, I'm saying like, but then like if they walk into something like this, it's like, oh, this dude really loves superheroes. What a fucking virgin. Like, you know what I mean? They're not thinking about like, what am I doing? What did I sign up for? Like, oh, we're just hanging out in this guy's fun room. You know what I mean? Like this is like the playroom or whatever the fuck you want to call it, right? Like this is just a fun place to be. And that's what I would just say about it. I was like, as you start building out your studio, make it like your personality.
Right.
Show your personality on camera and shit. Like, what do we know about Pierce that he's not talking about? You know what I mean? Like, even in the last studio space that I had, I still had like fucking dorky ass like DC pops behind me, and then I had like, I think Dawn of the Dead was behind. Yeah, Dawn of the Dead and Halloween were behind the guests, and I had like my figures up and shit like that. Like, I think that I have found that helps out a lot with like the relatability aspect of the podcast, and even with like the guests coming in, same thing. Like the conversation starters,
right?
Like, what are you into? No, seriously, like, what are you into?
Oh,
like what do you like
besides running a podcast?
Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty interested in money and finances.
Yeah, bitch. Aren't we all?
Yeah. And
well, no. I mean, if you're starting a podcast, you don't love money that much,
right? I guess I don't know how to say this without maybe coming off as a little bit rude, but I'm doing something about it too.
Who gives
you know what I mean?
Fuck. Yeah, dude.
Like, I'm interested in money and I'm interested in doing something about it. I'm also as I learn more about money, I'm kind of seeing the way I'm seeing systems that are in place like the government. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yes, let's go.
This shit's kind of fucking whack.
Let's go.
It's not what people think it is, or at least not what I thought it was when I was growing up, and not really what my parents were describing, or what they were describing. It wasn't the fucking full story. So I like that. I like thinking about.
If you want more than welcome to have it, dude. You're
in
more
a little bit, I probably will.
Yeah, you're more than welcome. Okay, so okay.
We'll dig into that.
We're questioning the government. Yeah, dude,
So-
fuck them.
So, I mean, and this kind of relates, I mean, because the money thing relates to this when you start to get to like society, but I like thinking about relationships, and that the smallest relationship is a 2-person relationship, but going all the way up from like two people
I'll
to
push back on
a
that.
family. Oh, a self relationship.
A self relationship is so important, dude.
Right.
If you don't understand who you are as a person, you are fucked.
Yeah.
And if you're not happy with yourself as a person, if you hate who you are, I'm not talking like this bullshit. Like mental health is important, but I mean, you see it. We're all on social media where people just milk mental health for nonsense reasons, for views and clicks and likes and bullshit. We all see that. I'm not breaking new ground by saying that. But I'm talking if you have, because I struggled with that for a long time. If you have a deep, for me, it wasn't a self-hatred. Maybe it was a little bit, like sometimes, but it was more of a deep disappointment. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like if you struggle with a real deep disappointment of yourself, and take it a step higher, in my opinion, it's higher, a deep self-hatred, and if you can't get that relationship down, most relationships around you that aren't family, probably gonna go up in flames, whether it's your fault or otherwise.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I feel like it works out that way.
Because, and yeah, I mean, you're right. That is the smallest relationship is the self relationship, but the dynamics of that self relationship, there are aspects of that which translate to a 2-person relationship.
Oh, for sure. Yes, exactly.
And
yeah.
what I've noticed is that those aspects from a single person relationship to 2 people, to a family, to a group of friends, to a small community, to a city, and theoretically state, government, planet, and then, whatever comes after that. Those, like, there's similarities all the way up and down through all those different hierarchies. So that kind of, that realm of thinking is very interesting to me, and also ties in with the money thing. Besides that, you asked what I was interested in.
Okay, but how does that tie into money though?
Oh,
for you.
Okay, so in relationships, and I'll try to relate it at the single person level. So you're just one person, but you do have many things that you want, many desires that sometimes don't line up, right? Like, I want this, I want, I don't know, I want to live in this house. But if I live in that house, I have to spend this many hours working, and I'd rather spend that time doing a podcast, for example, right? So you have different desires that are sometimes in one way or another in conflict with each other. Okay, so that's what it looks like at a single person level. That's pretty easy to imagine when you start going up to multiple people, right? Person A wants this, person B wants that. When you start getting to anything close to like what you'd call a society, money is the way that gets worked out peacefully. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well,
So-
yes, that is a very good way to explain money. The close to that, one of my favorite ways to explain money is buying people's time. You are buying their time. That means you're like because it's all broken down into hours, right? Minimum wage is like $15. That means an hour of your life to this company is only worth $15.
Exactly.
How fucked up is that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's fucked up in a couple ways because they're doing it to you, and you're letting them do it to you.
Well, I wouldn't say you're letting them do it.
I guess it depends on what your options are.
Yeah, you're kind of stranglehold into it. Because what's the other option? You're gonna go fucking rob somebody else of their money? Because then you're reducing that person to let's say like you go mug somebody and let's say they carry cash for some reason. That, and they're carrying $200. Your entire life, every hour that you could have spent is worth $200. Right? So that's the other option.
How are you getting to your entire life? You're saying if you kill the person?
Yeah, if you mug them and kill them.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah. It's like everything you could have fucking in Albuquerque, but let's be honest, right? There's fucking the crime here, right? Every hour you could have spent is worth $200. That's why the alternative is like, yeah, I guess I'll spend my, 1 hour is worth $15, 8 hours a day for 40 hours a week. That's how much I'm worth during this period of time. It's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
It's one of the most necessary evils, but it's kind of fucked up.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when the combination of the monetary incentives and the structure of the society start to, have you heard the term, like, it becomes a self-licking ice cream cone?
I have not heard that.
Okay. So it's like, a self-licking ice cream cone is a system, whether that's a system of people or, any sort of system that its sole purpose is to sustain itself, and a lot of times when systems like that become just systems that sustain themselves, they become corrupt, like, especially when we're talking about people. So if, a company says you're worth $15 an hour to us, and the company has an impact on the society that makes working for $15 an hour your best choice, then shit gets kind of fucked up, right? Because normally if it's like, okay, like me personally, I have a better option than that, and some people do. But as things go on, it seems like it becomes more and more the case that it's harder to find a better option than that. Like, that option still sucks, but the world that's kind of forming itself around us, is lining up the incentives such that a shitty option becomes the best option. So
yeah, because what's the term? You're because otherwise you're making the enemy of the good.
I haven't heard that before. Can you?
Yeah, so like it's like
the enemy of the good.
Yeah, so you're fighting, like, nobody wants to be worth $15 an hour. Right. But then companies do affect like the ecosystem of like what's making that happen, but then also like how else is the money being distributed, and then like with taxes coming into play, it's like, okay, taxes they should prop up the society you're in, right?
Hopefully.
We could drive down a road in New Mexico. Where the fuck are my tax dollars? But then you see other buildings being built. It's like, okay, well, I hope my tax dollars are going to like building this fucking building or going to social services that are actually helping people that need it or shit like that. So you have to make sacrifices to make things, in theory, right? Again, in theory, good.
Right.
But if you don't want to make any sacrifices, you're making the enemy of the good. Because you're not going to achieve that perfect, unfortunately, but you can get the good.
Right.
Now that could be self-eliminating, like the analogy you're making, the self-licking ice cream cone. I like that.
Yeah.
No, I like that a lot.
Like the ice cream cone's purpose is to be licked. So, but rather than being useful to anyone that would lick it or eat it, it licks itself, right?
It wants to survive. If this ice cream cone and the way I'm digesting that is like, if the ice cream cone wants to be sentient and survive, the idea is it to remain frozen, but it's licking itself, therefore imposing heat, which will make it melt.
So it can't be that good at licking itself.
Well,
because if it got too good, it would destroy itself.
Exactly.
Right.
No, it's destroying itself from the inside, which is what you're describing. Because it's like, yeah, we're providing things that make you only $15 an hour. But we make you only $15 an hour, so we're suppressing you, and we're propping up a environment that will only make you like that. Like that will not allow you to evolve. I guess. Right. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. So I'll tie it into some concrete examples here. So let's say hypothetically, so you're a company who offers. Or you're maybe in cahoots with some companies that have $15 an hour positions or whatever, whatever small wage you're offering. Well, if you got people addicted to social media, pharmaceuticals, and pornography, then that would probably make it hard for them to develop the skills or the ambition or the clarity of mind to go out and, find something that was more productive than that $15 an hour job. So that's the kind of shit that I'm like I started seeing it, and I'm like, oh fuck, we're not a civilization exactly. We're kind of like recently semi-civilized savages that still fuck each other over, but we're just more sneaky about it now,
We're evolved to the point where being, how do I put this? Like, we're evolved to the point where being conniving is for the elite. Like, truly being conniving. That's manipulating, again, like you're describing, manipulating the way the market works, manipulating the way money works, manipulating the way trade routes work. Like, dude, there's already people talking about, like, okay, you obviously saw the fucking bridge in Baltimore that collapsed. No way.
I don't really watch a lot of news.
You didn't see that? Oh, it's on fucking, yeah. So there's a fucking bridge in Baltimore that fucking collapsed because this ship crashed into it. And I guess a lot of people are speculating
that it was planned in order to prevent travel.
Well, what happened was it looks like the freighter or whatever, the fucking shipping freighter, it lost control of its computer systems, and the captain tried to recorrect. Then it lost control again, and then it crashed into the fucking bridge. And I'll put on the tinfoil hat here in a second, but here's the footage of it. So fucking there's this ship coming up. Actually, let's see if I can play this in like quicker speed. Yeah, okay. So ship comes up. And hits the fucking
shit.
Yeah.
So it hits the support there.
Yep, and the whole shit goes down. Like I think that bridge is a little bit bigger than the Golden Gate.
Oh, that's a fucking big ass. The Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco?
Yeah.
Holy shit, dude. That's a big ass fucking bridge.
Yeah.
I guess it was a big ass boat then too.
Yeah. So,
that shit's fucking massive.
Yeah. So, did you ever see that movie? It was produced by fucking Barack and Michelle Obama
Probably not.
on Netflix.
What's it called?
About the end of the world.
No.
Oh my God, I am fucking missing it right now. Obama produced movie. I know it's going to come up. There we go. Leave the World Behind. Did you ever see that movie? Fuck, you and your chick should watch that, dude. It's on Netflix. It's pretty good. I liked it. Basically, it's about the end of the world. Well, not the end of the world. It's about the United States getting hit with a cyber attack. And all of our systems go down. And it starts with a boat losing control of its fucking its electronic systems and navigation systems, and it lands itself on the beach. And so there were rumors or like conspiratorial, like tinfoil hat shit when the movie came out, because what happened was when that movie was getting made, the director who also wrote it went to President Obama. This was like 2 years ago, I think. 2-3 years ago. And went to him and was like, hey, man, writing this movie. Who knows how the fuck he had access to him, right? He was like, hey, we're writing this movie, making this movie. What do you think about this? Because the whole movie, it starts with the boat coming, but it's like a cyber attack. And like on one coast of so it takes place in New York. So in their part of the country, there's these airdrops that happen, right? That are from China. But then there's a part in the movie where you hear a news report where the West Coast is getting airdrops, and they have pamphlets on it saying "Death to America" that are from Iran, and so you don't know who's attacking. And the movie, spoiler, the movie ends with a civil war happening. And
so the cyber attack is essentially, I mean, maybe among other things, a social engineering attempt that causes the country
to collapse.
Right. Or divide.
And the setting of the movie is Ethan Hawke and I think Julia Roberts. Mm-hmm. They rent out this Airbnb in New York with their kid, and it's owned, and they're white, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it's owned by Mahershala Ali, and he owns the place, and him and his daughter show up. And they're like, hey, this thing happened where we lost power in New York. We had to come back to our house. Do you mind if we stay here? Like, we are the owners. And from the minute they show up, there's distrust. And they get into, like, race relations. And a bit of it's bit on the nose, right? But there's a lot of people that looked at that movie and were like, okay, this is predictive programming. Have you heard that term?
Probably.
Okay,
Tell me what it means again.
Again, tinfoil fucking hat, right? So,
the movie is predictive programming to the audience who's watching it.
Yes.
So by showing the audience what's going to happen, it makes them more likely to manifest that behavior or that outcome.
It's darker than that.
Okay.
So
makes them want it.
No, it's darker. It makes them
darker
okay.
than that.
It makes them okay with it.
Oh.
So
maybe that
with the
wanting it would.
So you have to enter this idea that I'm about to present to you. You have to enter it believing that there is a dark cabal of people that run the government, and they have a satanic religion.
Okay.
And a part of their religion is, and I forget what it's actually called, like this group of people, because it was referenced on the Patrick Bet David podcast. And one of his, if you don't listen to his podcast, you really should.
I've seen many clips. I don't know if I've
Patrick Bet David is the shit. Like, he's fucking legit. One of the guys on his panel, Vinny, he was bringing this up. And he named it. I forget what the fuck it was, but he goes, in this religion, they talk about how they believe in a very strict rule of karma. Meaning that if you don't, like, if you're not doing the right thing, bad things are going to come to you. And a part of that religion is if you tell people what you're going to do to them, it doesn't make it bad when you do it to them.
Right, because they knew.
Exactly.
I guess that would also assume they were able to do something about it.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So then you bring the predictive programming of the movie. You say, hey, we showed you guys this cyber attack happening, a civil war happening. We knew about this. I mean, fuck, dude, I love Alex Garland and I love A24 movie studio, but Civil War is coming out next month. The movie Civil War, about an American Civil War
in modern times.
Happening again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
You know what I mean?
I know what you mean,
bro.
So
he's bringing it up, and he's like, yeah, we've been talking, especially at the time the movie came out, there were a lot of rumors about China and Iran, specifically those two countries, hitting us with a cyber attack, hitting us with an EMP, and then 3 weeks later, this fucking movie comes out where China and Iran hit us with we don't know who it is, but we get hit with an EMP, and the movie ends with a civil war. And then you flash forward now, the movie's getting brought up again because this ship lost its fucking navigation system, knocked out a crucial bridge, and now, because that ship is stalled, I think it's still stalled right now, in that, like, Baltimore fucking Bay or whatever, where the bridge was. The ship is stalled, so shipping routes are getting fucked up. That bridge is down pretty much permanently. How long is it going to take to rebuild that with our nation's infrastructure right now?
Long ass fucking time.
10 years? Maybe. I think it's safe to say 10 to 15 years till that bridge gets rebuilt.
It depends on how important it is to people with money.
Exactly. So trade routes get fucked up more. Is it and again, you're like stapling the tinfoil hat into your head. It's an election season. And what did you see so you didn't even, I'm assuming you didn't see this because you didn't hear about the bridge collapsing. Biden came out and was like, we are putting 100% of our efforts into rebuilding this bridge. We are going to blah, 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 blah.
Like roll them a tragedy to fix.
Yeah. But bitch, where was this when fucking East Palestine up in like Ohio or whatever had the train derailment and all the pollutants got into the fucking ecosystem? Where was this when Maui was on fire? Where was this when Texas was on fire? Where was this when the fucking hurricanes happened in Texas? But it's an election season.
Right. hey, we don't have enough money to fix all the tragedies, so we're going to fix the tragedies that line up at election season so we can get reelected.
And it all comes back to money. Mm-hmm. So what are you understanding about money other than what I just outlined that is making you unsettled?
I mean, there's a lot of things. So, okay. Some of them are small, and I don't know. I'll just start listing them off here. So, I mean, probably the biggest one is that the industry that is their, what I don't know if they state it. I mean, probably somewhere they do, but what people think they do, the health industry, is that they keep people healthy, right? And they make their quality of life better. But the problem with that, just from like a pure business standpoint, is that when people's quality of life is good and people are living longer and people are healthy, then they don't make money. So why would they want to do that? Why would they want to fulfill that purpose? I mean, as long as people are incentivized by money, which they definitely are. I know because I am, and everyone is, obviously, and maybe not everyone, but just about everyone. Like, why would they make their shit work as good as they could? So that's a fucking big one. The other thing that kind of starts to make my eyes squint and my tinfoil dome shaped is when you start to learn a little bit more about taxes. Like, okay, so most people, their number one expense is taxes. Like, if you instead of looking at how much money they bring home after taxes, if you just look at what their wages are, their salary, it's like most of the money probably, like there could be some situations that would change it, is taxes. And if it's not taxes, it's their living expenses. But a lot of times people pay more in taxes than they do in living expenses. I'm talking like the standard 9-to-5 worker, which is most of everyone, you know? Okay, so people spend a lot of fucking money on taxes for the money they earn. Okay, so then when you buy shit, you pay taxes on the shit that you buy with money that you already pay taxes on. Now, the business that you're paying the money to buy something from that is having taxes taken out of it, which already had taxes taken out of it, that's their income. So that gets taxed too. And now let's say you wanted to do something crazy like buy a property with money that you earned and pay taxes on. Okay. I don't know if there's sales taxes on that, but you definitely are going to be paying property taxes on the property that you purchased with money that you pay taxes on. So it's like, okay. So that's a little bit weird, right? It's like they're taking out
that's a little bit weird.
Right. I'm really giving the benefit of the doubt here. But at the very least, that's a little bit weird. It's like, man, there's like a lot of, like, we're getting taxed a lot here. And then you start to realize that the rich people don't pay taxes. And it's not like, you know.
Keep going, so check cameras.
Yeah. It's not like they're doing it illegally. Some of them are. But it's not like, you know, the rich are just not paying taxes at all on money they should be paying taxes on according to the laws. And they're just getting away with it because everyone's in cahoots. It's a little bit more complicated than that. But basically, they set up the rules in a way where that if you make money in the ways that rich people tend to make money, then you don't pay taxes on it. Or you're able to write off, you know, the taxes that you would owe. And then really the big kicker is that you don't, and I'll explain why this is a big kicker, but you don't pay taxes on money that you borrow. Okay, so why would you, okay, then that doesn't sound like, if you borrow money, you have to pay it back, and you're paying interest on top of it, right? Okay, and if you went down to, I don't know, a bank or like a, you know, a personal credit lender, they would charge you some ridiculous interest rate, like 10%, 20%, something like that. Something that is maybe 25%, something that's probably close to what you're paying in terms of percentage on your taxes anyway. Okay, but now you start to look at what the interest rate looks like when you are buying something like a house, or you have something of substantial value that you can use as collateral. So right now, interest rates suck on like buying a home. I haven't looked at them recently, but I'll guess maybe they're around 7%, 7.5%. which
high.
Yeah, which is high.
No, dude, it's higher because the VA percentage right now is at like 4.5, 5. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine commercial is sitting at about 9, 8 to 9. It has to be.
Okay, so let's say 8 to 9, right? Well, that's a lot better than paying 15% in taxes or 20% or 25% if you have a decent 9-to-5 job. I mean, I don't mean decent, but I mean like a pretty good, like 9-to-5 job. Okay, so if you borrow money, that money isn't taxed, and you can pay it, and you have to pay it back, but the interest that you pay is going to be a lot lower than your tax rate. And then you start looking at like what really rich people do. And now you're talking about like, okay, if you own a company who's public, that has publicly traded stock, right? It's like, okay, now if I need to buy something, I'm not going to use money that I'm going to pay taxes on and pay fucking, 20, 30% on, $1 million, $2 million. I'm going to take out a loan on my stock that's valued at that amount, or maybe a certain amount higher for, to make the lenders feel happy about your collateral. And then they're going to charge me an interest rate, which is drastically lower than what I would be paying in, income taxes, basically. All this stock that I have that's worth however much money, I don't pay taxes on it unless I sell it. If you sell it, then you're paying huge amounts in capital gain taxes. But don't sell it. Just use it as collateral for a loan and pay a small amount of interest on. And then, of course, you're rich and you probably got there for a reason. So now you're using this money to buy more assets that are going to cash flow harder than the interest that you're paying, which is low because you're getting a good deal. So it's like there's a ladder, and it's hard to get on the ladder. But once you start going up the ladder, it starts accelerating. Like, okay, so it's really fucking hard to buy a house right now. It's probably the hardest that it's ever been in, I don't know, since fucking houses had been like a thing that like people bought. You know what I mean? Like back before, like when everyone kind of like knew how to build a house, it was different. But once it was like, okay, people don't know how to build houses and now we buy them. Like this is probably the hardest it's ever been. And the house is like the entry point to this ladder that I'm talking about. And the beginning of that ladder is like, okay, you buy a house and, you're paying somewhere between 4 to 8% interest on that loan. And you're paying for it with your 9-to-5 job. You're renting out your time to a company who's by definition paying you less than it's worth to them. Because if it was worth less than what they were paying you, they wouldn't do it, right? It wouldn't make them any money. Okay. So, but if you can do that, if you can get a house, then the next step, at least along the real estate route, is now you rent out that house to someone else, right? This is what I'm doing. I haven't gotten there yet, but this is the plan. Okay. So now you rent that house out to someone else. Okay. So now someone else is paying for the loan that you took out on that house. And if you're smart and you can find a good deal and you can get decent renters and you can have a consistent amount of renters and repairs don't fuck you up too bad, you're making a little bit of extra money. Like, maybe your mortgage is, I don't know, $2,000 a month, and you're charging $2,300. We're going to take out vacancy and repairs for the purpose of this example. So now you have an extra $300 a month. So now, and I mean, that's just, so yeah, so now you have a house and it's being paid off for by other people and you have extra income. Okay. So now you're doing pretty good, right? And now you have an asset that you can leverage. So you can take loans out against that house that, I mean, until this point in your life are going to be the lowest interest loans that you've ever had, right? Because if you wanted to go take out a personal interest or a personal finance loan, whatever they're called, they're 10, 20%, maybe probably 10's probably way too low, like 20, 25%. So now you have a house, someone else is paying for it. You've got a little bit of extra money. So now you could do a cash out refinance, or you could do a home equity line of credit. And basically it's, you're getting a loan using your house as collateral. Someone else is already paying for the house. You've got a little bit of extra money. So now you can cover the extra monthly cost of the money that you borrowed. So now you have money that you borrowed, and paying it back is being covered by someone else because you rented out your house. And this money that you got, you didn't pay taxes on. okay, that's sweet. Now you could buy another house and do it again. You see what I mean? So now that's kind of like generally the first step of the ladder. And once you get it going, you're like, oh, fuck. I mean, I haven't gotten there, but I saw this and I'm like, once you get there, you're like, I have a fucking huge advantage over like 90% of the population. And then you think about, you go way up the ladder. Think about like the guy who owns McDonald's. How much fucking real estate does that guy have?
Have you seen the movie The Founder with Michael Keaton? Holy shit.
Is it the shit that I'm talking about, kind of?
No, it's the guy who fucking made McDonald's what it is. Long story short is he showed up, found the fucking original McDonald's with the two guys that ran it, the brothers, and we're like, you guys need to franchise this shit. And they're like, we can't. This is what happened. We had product control issues and we had da-da-da-da. And he basically fixed them up and managed... and exactly what he said, he was in real estate. And there's a scene where he's sitting down with this fucking lawyer guy, and he's like, dude, you're not in the burger business. You're in the real estate business.
Yeah.
And he sits him down, like, you need to own the land that McDonald's is on.
And then you rent out the business and let someone else.
And you just fucking franchise that way. He swindles the brothers out of McDonald's.
Oh, the lawyer did?
No, the owner.
The owner.
The guy played by Michael Keaton.
Wait, I thought the brother...
Okay, so there's Michael Keaton's character.
Okay,
he's a business guy down on his luck. He finds McDonald's and goes, "We can franchise this." It starts getting traction, starts getting growth. Meets with the lawyer guy, figures out how to make more money for himself, not for the company, but for himself, because the brothers gave him a lot of control because they trusted him. He's a dick.
Yeah.
They trusted him, and then he ends up buying out the brothers from their shit with like next to nothing from what it's like,
because they don't see the prospect of it being essentially a real estate development company.
And then the fucked up part of the movie, one of the fucked up parts is at the end, the brothers open up their own burger joint like down the road from their first McDonald's, and they go under in under 15 months. Nasty.
Yeah.
Nasty as fuck. But it's the same shit.
Right.
It's all real estate. But continue.
Yeah.
Continue.
So, I mean, real estate... I'm trying to think if there's any other examples that I can think of, but I mean, the big thing about real estate is that it gives you access to low interest debt, which is, I mean, that's kind of like low interest debt and assets that cash flow, which just means, you know, shit that you buy that makes you money passively or relatively passively. I mean, that's the route up the ladder. I can't think of anything.
Well, that's what, like, you see a lot of, if you watch enough of these, like, finance videos on YouTube, they're talking about stuff, you're just saying, like, how rich people take out debt on, like, they use their assets as collateral, but their assets are so strong, they're not going to go away, like stocks in a company, like Amazon stock and all this crazy shit, right? Like, if Bezos were to sell all his assets, not his assets, if he were to sell all his stock, Amazon collapses. A lot of the fucking American banking collapses probably because of how big Amazon is, because everything is built up on debt.
Right.
It's like everything. It's like a 3D pyramid made of chopsticks.
Yeah.
Like everything is supported by everything else, and if one thing starts to collapse, the whole thing just falls.
Right.
Which is insanity.
Do you know about fractional reserve banking? I mean,
dude. I want you to take a look around and then look at me. Do you think I even know the term fractional reserve banking before you walked in here?
Okay, I guess the answer is no. But it is besides the shit that I'm talking about. I mean, it's really the thing that makes the chopstick pyramid that you're describing. So, and it's how a lot of money gets created. And money, you have to realize that debt and money are kind of the same thing. Obviously not physical banknotes, but they're currency. So what fractional reserve banking means is that, let's say you're a bank, right? And I have $100 and I'd like to deposit my $100 into your bank. Okay, so you're like, sweet, here, we'll hold on to your $100 for you.
Oh, wait, no, I know what you're talking about, because they take that $100 and they, like, divvy it out and they do all that shit, yeah.
Right, so they lend it out, and they lend out, I think it's I don't know what the fractional reserve amount is, but basically I think it's 80%, right? So they can lend out 80 of your $100.
Yeah.
But your bank account balance will still show $100.
That's why you can't, like, people who have a fuck ton of money. Mm-hmm. That's why there's like the run on the bank. Yeah.
Right. So your balance will still show that. Now, depending on how leveraged the bank is, because they have lots and lots of customers, and lots of people leave large sums of money in their bank account for a long time and don't pull it out. This is why bank accounts really incentivize you to set up your direct deposits, because then they can predict how much money is going to come in. They'll look at your habits and predict how much is going to come out. But basically what they're trying to do is lend out as much money as they can, because remember, they make interest on the money that they lend out that you give them for free, without being too unstable. Because if they're too unstable, they're lending out 80% of everyone's money. But now on average, people come back for 21% or any amount more than that of the money, and the bank's like, "Sorry guys, we don't fucking have it." And that's what happened. That's why the Great Depression happened. It's this this pyramid of chopsticks, and one of the chopsticks fucking broke. You know what I mean? And then it was just this chain reaction.
You are a blast at parties, aren't you?
I am, but I don't talk about it. I dance at parties, bro. Like,
no, that's real shit. No, and that's why, like, one of my favorite scenes. Have you seen Ozark?
No.
Get the fuck out of here. You haven't seen Ozark? Do you have Netflix? Okay.
I don't have a lot of time to.
This is what you're gonna
do shit. Watch entertainment.
You are gonna fucking set a date night with your chick, and you guys are gonna watch the first like 3 episodes of Ozark.
Okay, between Ozark and Founder, what should I watch first?
I mean, Founder's a movie. So that's like a one done. Ozark has 4 seasons.
I see. So if I'm looking for a continued experience, Ozark. If I need a one-off, Founder. Gotcha.
Dude, Ozark is crazy how good it is. Like, Jason Bateman is one of the most underrated performers in media. He is so good as an actor. And I think he does a little bit in the 3rd season, but in the 4th season, he directs. And he's so good. He's so fucking good. Anyway, there's a moment in, I don't want to give away what the show's about.
Okay.
Just because if you don't know anything about it, that is the best way to get into it. It's so fucking.
Just dive right in.
Yeah, it's so good. But there's a moment where Jason Bateman, he goes to the bank and he's like, "Hey, I'd like to pull out." I think he says like it's not $1 million. It's like $50,000, I think. Yeah, it's not like in the grand scheme of things a shit ton of money, but he was like 50,000, 100,000 ish around there, and the bank owner, like the executives, is a chain bank, to show up and be like, "We don't have that type of money, sir. You know we can't do that." And he goes, "Okay, well," because it's a small town they live in the Ozarks, right? Very small community, and he goes, "Okay, well, I'm gonna tell everyone I know that I couldn't pull my money out of the bank because you don't have it. And they're going to tell everyone that they know, and then your bank is done in 24 hours. You should give me my money." And they have him sit for like 30 minutes, and they fucking do they're like pulling all the money together and all the digital numbers that are all pulling. And he, dude, he's a fucking badass. He walks out with 2 big old bags of money. He's like, "Fuck yeah, bitches." Dude, it's so good. But yeah, it's scary though. And that's why I don't look into it too much. Like, I want to learn about money. I just got done meeting with a really good financial planner here in town. And I've known their family for years, and they're fucking awesome. I went to NIMI with their daughter.
Would you recommend them?
Yes.
Who are they?
Yeah, Steve Lynch. Steve Lynch. They're really good. Because I went to NIMI with Steve, the guy who owns the company, Steve. I went to NIMI with his daughter, Megan. And I mean, I've known Kyle for a fucking long time too, and Kyle's dope. He's one of his sons, and he's my financial planner. And they're all smart motherfuckers. They're all really cool. And I got to meeting with them like a month or so ago, and I made my first deposit into my like portfolio today. Right. And they break it down super simple. It's like, "Hey, this is what this happens. This is that, right?" But then like just learning about like how all of like in my own time, learning about how much of this is propped up on debt, and learned about how much of this is propped up. Like there's good debt and bad debt. Right now, I've talked about it before on the podcast. I'm in bad debt.
Like high interest debt.
Not even high interest. Well, it's...
What makes it bad if not high interest?
Well, it's high interest debt, but it... Yeah.
That to me was my understanding.
No, yeah, you're right. Yeah,
bad.
it is. Yeah, it's high interest debt. And it's credit card debt.
Yeah.
High interest bullshit credit card debt. So that's where I'm at right now. So it's like pulling myself out of it, but it's in the long game, right? But it's crazy because like I'm in bad debt, but my credit score is fucking rock solid. Like it goes in between it goes in between 705 and 720 on a regular basis.
Are you making regular payments on this bad debt?
Yeah.
That's probably why.
Yeah, it's exactly why. It's because I make good payments on it because I have other like assets and shit that have done well, or not done well, but like I've made other payments on things that have like my car and shit like that. So like I'm good. It's just the debt is what I want to get rid of in the next like fucking however long it's going to take. But just again like fucking I'll get done with the podcast, like editing and working around like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. Don't really want to go to bed yet. I know that I should. Then a fucking Dave Ramsey video comes up on my YouTube, or this fucking money bullshit, and I'm like learning about, or these little stick figures talking to me about how debt works, and I'm oh no, our whole society is propped up on, I got you, bro.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck?
So I was in that cynical state, and
I wouldn't call it cynical. It's just like, what are we doing?
Oh,
right. It's like
it makes no sense.
No,
like, why the fuck would we do that?
Yeah, it's more like, what the hell? Like, what the fuck is going on? More than it is like, this is all bullshit. It shouldn't happen. Like, I'm sure there are way worse options.
Yeah.
But I would have to imagine that there are better options than like, well, if I promise you this and you promise me, and because they promised and because they said, like, there has to be a better solution than this.
It depends on what you want.
Okay.
So the reason why you would want debt, I mean, okay, so the way debt works is I don't have money now and I want money now. So I'm going to borrow money.
Yeah.
But money now is better than money later. So I have to pay interest on it, right? That's the debt exchange. Okay, so
because people have to profit no matter what.
Right. And presumably, so like, if we'll use a very, very simple example, but something that everyone has access to right now, if they wanted to, is there are high yield savings accounts, right? Yep. Which yield maybe 4%, 5% annually.
5 at most. Yeah.
So right now, if I had $100 and I put it in that bank account, I would have $105 a year from now, assuming the rate stayed the same the whole way through, no compounding, easy math, right? Okay. Now, if you want to borrow my $100, that means that you have to pay me more than I could get by putting it in that account, right? So that's a very simple example. So that's like the very basic example of why we even would pay me interest, because I could be profiting more off of it somewhere else. Now you start getting into things like I own a business, or I'm a bank and I've got all this, I've got all these investors essentially, or I'm an investor myself and I've got a good strategy. It's like, okay, now if you want to borrow my money, now you really got to make it worth it to me, because I've got, all these options where I could make money. Okay, so money now is worth more than money later. If I get money now, I can do stuff faster. And if you kind of, like, I know there's a lot of fucking corruption. But the idea of money is that I want to do stuff. And if I want to do stuff, I need people's help.
Yeah.
So I have to provide something of value.
Right.
Okay. So if I get my money now, and use it to provide something of value, I can provide something of value sooner. And if that value gets provided sooner, the people who that value gets provided to benefit from it sooner. So you imagine that at the whole level of society, and it's like, and especially if you're in competition with other societies, you want that shit to go as fast as you can possibly get it without it collapsing in on itself, because it's risky when you do that. But there's a benefit, you go faster. So if the goal is to go faster, it's a trade-off. It's like you trade speed for security in terms of the health of your economy.
Right.
And I don't know what analysis went into it, but somehow or another, the people, I don't remember what they're called, the Federal Reserve, they're like, okay, if inflation is at around 2%, that's good. That's not too risky, but it's fast enough.
Right. Well, and that's why we're fucked up right now, is because the speed to security is all out of whack. We're not moving that fast, and we are extremely insecure right now.
We're not. What do you mean we're not moving that fast?
Like, okay, our border is a fucking mess. Our infrastructure is falling apart. Our military are getting budget cuts. Like, I don't know if you saw this, but at the end of, not even budget cuts, at the end of February, it got reported that 24,000 jobs from the military or from the army are getting cut. And at the same time, there are talks. No, it wasn't talks. It was a fucking DOD memorandum that came out that they're going to start they're going to open the ability to recall retired soldiers.
Oh, shit.
To come back to the military.
And serve. Yeah.
So we're not going that fast.
In a good direction.
And our security is falling apart. Those are just basic surface level examples.
Right. So what that means is that the exchange of money that's happening, right? I mean, there's lots and lots and lots of exchanges of money and debt's being taken out and people are buying shit. But what that means is that on average, the value of the thing that the money is being spent on is less than what people are paying for it. Like if you look at the value to the overall society.
Right.
And that happens in all sorts of little and big places. I mean, fucking corruption. That's a huge way that it happens. It happens with, at the consumer level with people buying shit that doesn't actually help them out, like impulsive things that in that very moment are valuable to you, but then a week, a month, a year down the line end up not being worth what you paid for them. So if the overall valuation of the exchanges are wrong, like for the whole society, that's why shit like that happens. And like I said, it happens at the consumer level, and it happens all the way up at the infrastructure level, and it happens all throughout.
There's a term floating around. I don't see it too much anymore, but it was like a couple months ago that we're going through a quiet depression. Where people did the math and they were like, okay, again, adjusting for inflation, but the valuation of money of the American dollar is lower now, and it is less effective in the overall market. It's less effective now than it was in the Great Depression.
Oh. Wait, you're saying after adjusting for inflation?
Yeah. Like the money now.
Well, that sucks.
Is not as effective in the overall market.
Right.
Than it was in the Great Depression.
After I already said this, but that's crazy. Yeah. After adjusting for.
Yeah.
When was the Great Depression? 1930?
20s.
1920?
It was the roaring 20s into the 30s.
Right, so 1930.
Late 20s into the 30s. Yeah.
After almost 100 years of
we're worse
inflation.
The moment we're going through right now is we're worse off. So that being said, why do you think people socially don't act like that?
Well, this in a way gets back to, remember when I was talking about companies building up an incentive structure around you so that $15 an hour job becomes your best option? When I was talking about like pharmaceutical companies, pornography, social media addiction. So if you're constantly being blasted by things that make your life seem okay, then it can get pretty bad before it catches up to you. And that happens at an individual level, and that can happen it can happen at the entire society and at any level in between, right? So if people's lives feel good most of the time because of, sort of short-term or medium-term pleasure things, then
quick dopamine hits. Quick the response system, what's it called? It's the response system that your dopamine is based upon. Where it's like your quick Basically means you're getting a quick dopamine hit. So you're getting it's fucking instant gratification. There we go.
Yeah.
Instant gratification. Yeah.
So that definitely plays a role in your question, which is why do people not act like it? What else would do that? I mean, people who are responsible, and especially people who aren't going to have it as bad as everyone else, wouldn't be yelling in the streets about it unless they had a big moral obligation that they felt they had. And beyond not just yelling in the streets about it, they would probably be incentivized to do everything they could to hide that information from the people who would be affected by it.
That's exactly what I was going to say. So I think that they meaning the government, right,
and everyone involved that is kind of on the other side of
the government, the beneficiary, the corporation heads, the CEOs, the cabal. Let's call them that. The cabal of assholes. Let's put it that way, right? I think that's why they shove social issues down your throat, is because it's real easy to yell in the street about Black Lives Matter, about trans rights, about gay rights. Notice how women's rights have fucking fallen off the cliff. They don't give a fuck about women's rights anymore. It's all about trans and BLM and all the like extremes of it, right? Where like, and then the women's rights, it used to be abortion, but that's kind of like an afterthought now. Right. And BLM just became this like corporative bullshit that when you really look at it, has not helped black people at all, unfortunately. Candace Owens really broke that down like bit by bit in her podcast a couple of weeks ago. But I think they shove social issues down your throat so much as a collective society so that you don't look at the financial issues head on anyway. Right, you don't stare at that evil demon in its eyes like, oh shit, we're really like not doing that great here.
Right.
But you're right, fucking, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good analogy. Like fucking, I'll use my own name. Noah turned Noel can't use the right bathroom, so let's go yell about that shit. You know what I mean? That's why I think they've shoved these social issues down our fucking throats, because it's a lot easier like, well, you need to use my pronouns, or you need to accept this, or this is correct, this isn't wrong. Children should go to naked drag shows, and we could put kids on hormone blockers, all this inflammatory shit that gets the extremes of if society is on a spectrum of like right to left or whatever politically and socially, and it's like it'll inflame, right? And they're hoping that flame engulfs the whole spectrum.
Right.
But I guarantee you, if I sit down with the most, or even you on your podcast, if you were to sit down with the most extreme, I don't know where you lie politically, but like the most extreme leftist, like the most, like you should still be wearing a mask, you should be on your 5th fucking booster, and Kamala Harris is the best thing to happen to women's politics since Hillary Clinton, and Joe Biden should be president, and all this type, like that type of leftist. If you sat down with them, you're like, hey dude, how much money do you make a year? Oh, I make 28,000, 32,000, 40,000 a year, 45,000 a year. Okay, hey, yeah, man, me too. Wouldn't it be cooler if like your money was worth more to you? Yeah, I think so. Fuck yeah, dude. That's where that conversation ends. Right. Like that's where it ends.
Like that would, yeah. Like all the other shit put aside, that would help everyone.
That is where the conversation is. We just agreed.
Yeah.
Me and this hypothetical they, them, it, was, trans, whatever, just agreed on like our money should be worth more.
Right.
What we decide to do with it is our own business. But that's what they want to keep us away from.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I do. And I often toss back the idea in my head of like, how much is it that they want this and that they are doing something active to make it happen? And I mean, in a way, it kind of doesn't matter because it works whether or not someone tries whether or not someone has an agenda to push it, right? So at the very,
I disagree.
well,
We'll continue.
I'll put my case forward, and then okay. So so take the examples you're talking about with social issues. Okay, so if social issues pop up or they're pushed in, right? If they pop up organically or if they're pushed in, those social issues are a lot easier for people to understand than the financial issues that, we're talking about.
I agree.
Okay, so people can understand it. And it's easy to get emotional about them. So right off the bat, your audience, let's say, your society, is going to be more receptive to the social issues. And then, now that your audience is more receptive to the social issues and very easily emotionally activated by that, there's a lot of people whose livelihoods depend on what people pay attention to. So there's an organic system in place where if people are paying attention to X, then this company or this whole industry makes money by figuring out what X is and what people are interested in about X and promoting it as much as they can. So that's I could see that problem happening purely organically. In the middle is it happens purely organically, and someone who benefits from it, like way up at the top, is like, oh, that's happening. Well, we don't need to do anything to stop it. And
I agree.
Maybe we'll give them a little bit. So I don't know how corrupt it is. I could see it happening being zero corrupt. I don't think it's zero corrupt.
Look at George Floyd. No, for real. Look at George Floyd. That is the most, look, over time, over the last 10 years, police brutality and specifically police murders of black people have gone down. Police murder more white people than they do black people.
Proportionally by...
No, that's just a fact.
You just mean in the raw numbers?
Yeah, raw numbers, law enforcement, deaths per demographic, it is more white people than it is African Americans.
Right.
Like Caucasian versus African Americans, right? That is just a fact. However, I really think that the fucking whoever runs the multinational media companies that originate in our states saw the George Floyd incident in the middle of COVID and were like, there it is. Because that's a horrific video to watch. It is not a good video to watch. You are watching a man die. That sucks. And there was an argument between how much of it was the fentanyl in his system, how much of it was the cop kneeling on his neck. It's both, quite frankly. But it's a horrific thing to watch. But it's not like that was I don't know, it was really ugly. It was awful to watch. But to call it uncommon, in the bigger scale of police brutality, it's not an outlier, unfortunately. I'm not saying it's a good thing, but it's not an outlier. Now, granted, is that a very marketable image? A white guy in a traditional police officer uniform kneeling on the neck of that black man while he screams for his mother? Come on. A marketing team could not come up for a better campaign against white people, against white law enforcement.
Right.
You can't come up with a better one. You know what I mean? You really can't. So I understand it. And then I understand why that police officer should have gone to jail 110%. There's no question. And I look at that and seeing that get the best way I can put it is George Floyd can only die once. He's a man. He can only die one time. But if that's getting put on every news station that we have in the middle of a lockdown where let's be conservative and say 70% of the country spent the majority of their time locked in a house. Okay. So you're talking 70%, 60 to 70% of the country is locked in their house, glued to the news, trying to figure out. They're not even giving a fuck about Black Lives Matter. They're trying to figure out, can we go to work tomorrow? What's the update on the vaccine? What's the COVID deaths at? What is Las Vegas, New York, LA, Seattle, or Portland? What are they looking like? That's what's Texas looking like. What's Florida looking like? That's what they care about. And then they get George Floyd shoved down their throat. George Floyd didn't die one time in this country. George Floyd died millions of times.
You're saying for every single person, every single time they watch that video.
Every single time he saw it on the news, every single time he saw it on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, every time it was shared, George Floyd died tens, hundreds of millions of times. And so you're completely right. I take that back. You were completely right about the way you're describing the social issues. It's really easy to get inflamed over seeing that in person once. Like, hey, what the fuck is going on? Like, what the fuck, dude? And then you multiply that by 100 million, you're done for. You are fucking done for. And that's not to say that, like, again, it's an ugly thing that happened and it shouldn't have happened. Shouldn't have fucking happened. But they took this situation and exploded it into a literal global event. There were protests in fucking England, in Italy. You know what I mean? If that wasn't coordinated? Now, and again, it happened at the same time that everyone's locked in their house. People are upset at the government. People are mad. It's getting fucking like that primal, like fucking chimpanzee, fucking like monkey rage that you want to get out somehow. You can't go to the gym. You can't go fucking, dude. I was in Texas, dude. I was in El Paso, Texas. I can talk about this freely now because I'm out of the military. Okay. I was in El Paso, Texas at Fort Bliss when like the height of COVID was going on. I was there from the end of February of 2020 until July. Okay. I remember in like, this happened. I got yelled at in like May, end of April into May, around there. There's my barracks. So if my barracks was right here, there's a running track right here. And this was parking lot. I'm not making this up. I literally walked out of my fucking barracks area and then just track right there. I'm running outside on the track because the gyms were closed. The base gym was closed. The fucking I went to an off-base gym. This was really fucking nice. Really cool place. They closed down. And I was like, fuck, what am I going to do? So I was like, okay, well, I'll do pull-ups, push-ups and sit-ups in my room, and I'll go running on the track, right? I'm running on the track, and some fucking dickhead military police was like, didn't even start with like, hey man, can't be out here. Sorry, this is post-regulation. Hey, you fucking idiot. What are you doing? I'm like, what? Dude,
in what world am I an idiot for doing this?
Yeah, right.
Where are you coming from right now, dude?
No, right. I'm like, I didn't want to be an asshole because obviously they have like law enforcement. They can fucking detain me. You know what I mean? So I'm like, I took out my fucking AirPod. I'm like, I'm running. I don't want to be a prick, but it's like, what does it look like I'm doing? I'm in fucking long sleeves. I'm literally wearing what I'm wearing right now. Like long sleeves, fucking, I'm in my army uniform and shit because they have a PT uniform. Long sleeve army fucking shirt and PT shorts, in regulation shoes and regulation socks. I have my dog tags on me and I'm fucking just running in a circle. Like, what the fuck do you think I'm doing? And it turned into, you need to get in your fucking barracks room before you, and then I just tuned out after that. And then as I'm walking in, the fucking sergeant that was on CP on the desk duty or whatever, they're like, they got mad at you for running outside, didn't they? And I was like, yeah, COVID regulations are coming in hard. I'm like, motherfucker. So while that type of shit is happening to Americans all around the world, you can't go to the gym, you can't go to the park, you can't go to the bar, you can't go to concerts. And then fucking social issues start to happen. Is it any fucking surprise? And you're going to get mad at people that are detaining you from doing it or stopping you from doing it. That's the police. Now, granted, should motherfuckers be like breaking out the windows of a Target or a Burlington Coat Factory to fucking steal? No.
Right.
Is it insane that LA has a thing where it's like, oh, if you fucking steal less than $600, it's okay? Like, bitch, what?
Right.
What the fuck are we talking about here? Like $600 per person? Are you fucking kidding me? It's like that type of shit. And you just growl and you feel. It's like, you ever seen like an old timey fireplace where it came with like the stokes to poke the fucking logs, and then you have the thing where you're literally
the bellows.
Thank you, the bellows, where you're literally pushing oxygen into the fucking flame. Is that not what George Floyd was? And then how fucking disrespectful is that to the family? Where they're using the death of their family member, of their loved one. Sure, he was a prior criminal and a fucking drug addict. Okay, but he's still a person. And they're using that as a thing to fucking push oxygen into the flame that was COVID America at the time. Come the fuck on.
Yeah. That's shit like that. So when I say that we're a population of recently civilized savages, like that's fucking savage.
Yeah.
We're just a little bit more sneaky about it now.
Yeah, the conniving, the conniving is for the elite.
Right. Yeah.
What else are you into?
Okay. Good question. Music. I love music.
Okay.
I'm a musician. I play the drums primarily. I've been playing for a long time.
What's your Instagram name? Cosmic?
The Cosmic Garden.
Yeah.
So that is currently under hiatus.
Okay.
So
because of the podcast, I'm assuming, right?
Because fiance job podcast, trying to get high enough up the ladder to survive. What's the thing that it's like the Great Reset. Right. That's what I'm trying to survive.
No.
So I'm trying to do that. And I'm like, okay, I don't have time for all this. Which one goes?
Okay.
It was music.
Okay. Let's take a break.
Yeah.
So I got to pee real quick.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Take a quick break. We are back. The Great Reset.
Ah, yes. So I haven't looked too much into it, but basically what I've heard is that there will be a massive transferring of wealth. That's one thing I've heard. And then the other thing that I've heard is that you will own nothing and you will be happy, and that you will eat bugs too.
Yeah, it's the whole Bill Gates, like you'll eat bugs and that's where you get your protein. You're not going to own anything. You'll rent and lease everything. You'll have no real ownership of property or shit like that. Okay, so, and what's fucked up, so if you go to the World Economic Forum and you go to their fucking website, they talk about the Great Reset. Like on their website. You know that, right?
Right, because if they didn't, then the karma would get them, right?
Thank you. Thank you. A motherfucker that listens. Thank you. Okay, so, yeah, they have... Okay, this is new. I didn't see this. They have episodes on it.
Like little short clips?
I've never seen that.
5 episodes. It's been a while since I've been to their website. Yeah, like little... Yeah.
You're like, fuck.
Well, so remember when I was talking about one of the things that I wanted to do was get up on that ladder because I wanted to survive the Great Reset? So being a little bit higher on that ladder might not in and of itself save me, but it might give me enough time to realize how fucked we are so that I have enough time to make the decision to go get in the bunker. You know what I mean? Because I don't have a bunker yet. So if shit starts getting bad, I need some time to set the bunker up. Okay, so if I'm a little bit higher up, I might not be within the first 3 months of people who are eating bugs. So that might be enough time for me to go fucking set something up.
There was a small light in your eyes that just went away when I passed my photo. You're like, oh.
Because I've thought about it. And I'm I've thought about how bad could it be? And how will I know? And what will I do? And the how will I know... It reminded me of some of the things that I thought of when I thought, well, how will I know?
I don't know, man. This might be... I mean, it is self-defeating, but it's this might sound like some pussy shit.
Okay. Go for it.
When the time comes, man, whether it's a fucking meteor that comes and hits the planet... did you ever watch Don't Look Up? Mm-mm. No, you don't have fucking Netflix. Okay, Don't Look Up. Another great movie about this kind of stuff, right? The end of the world political based things. The guy who made it, Adam McKay, is a genius. Like he got his career in the early 2000s making stuff like Anchorman with Will Ferrell, right? That's his sense of humor. The Great Short or The Big Short. Did you ever see that?
I've heard of it from PDB.
You would love that movie.
PBD?
The Big Short. It's with fucking Steve Carell, Brad Pitt, Ryan Gosling. It's all about the 2008 housing crisis. You would love that movie. But he has a very dark, surreal, like black sense of humor. So he made Don't Look Up, which is with Leonardo DiCaprio and Jennifer Lawrence, and there's another big actor in there. There's a lot of big actors, but like there's another really big one as the main cast. I forget who it was. It was about climate change. And basically it's about a giant, like insurmountable amount of size meteor is coming to hit the earth. And there's people that are like, that's not true. It's government propaganda. There's like, oh, it's climate change. We'll be okay. And like, no one can really like decide on it. And I won't spoil how that movie ends for you because it's so fucking cool how that movie ends. You would love that movie.
Don't Look Up.
Don't Look Up. It's fucking awesome. But whenever the time comes, man, whether it's a big meteor, whether it's nuclear war, if it's like if it's nuclear war, dude, take me out in the blast. I don't want to be in the bunker. I do not want to be, and a lot of it is just because like quality of life. That's one part of it for me. And then I'll be honest, another part of it too is religion too. My own personal belief system in Christianity. Like I know where I'm going after this. I'm pretty confident in where I'm going after this, you know? And I haven't played a whole lot of Fallout myself, but I've watched my friends play Fallout.
And you don't like that life.
I don't want to live in that world, dude. But you even look at it realistically. Like, I don't want to die slowly of radiation poisoning. That seems like your organs are literally melting from the inside.
Right.
And then, what I think is worse than that, you're watching your loved ones go through it. What if they die before you do? Now you get to live with the memory of your closest people dying from one of the worst deaths possible, knowing you're going to do that too, but you're cursed to live longer. I don't want to do that, bro.
I feel you.
Take me out in the blast.
Let me ask you a question, because I've thought about this as well. So you said you're a Christian.
Yeah.
If something horrible like that were to happen, do you think that there would be nothing left on earth? Nothing left on earth for you to do in which you could serve God? Like there would be nothing.
Ooh, that's a good question.
Is there something you could stick around for to do that would serve God, that would show your faith?
Of course there is. Of course there is. There always will be.
Would it be worth suffering through the things that you described to serve that purpose?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, if the ultimate goal is heaven, then yes, of course it is.
It's worth suffering through.
Because that means that the alternative is hell, right? For those other people, right? Because you're obviously talking about ministering and pastoring and passing on the message, right? That's what you're referring to.
I mean, if that's what speaks to you, then yes.
Well, that has to be, right? That's the end goal of Christianity, right? Is to bring the word of God to as many people as humanly possible in a way that's digestible to where they understand where you're coming from and therefore into believing and then becoming a part of the belief system. And it's like, okay.
And as a result of that, they get saved and go to heaven.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. That should be the end goal. You're completely right. I have never thought of it like that. That's heavy. No, that's heavy, bro. Dude. That's crazy. Because again, because I think about that, because I have friends that aren't Christian, and I'm like, damn, like, I'd like for them to not go to hell. Because again, that's my belief system, right? That's my own belief. And then I don't love them any less because they're not Christian. They know that. I do not love them any less because they're my fucking dogs. Like, we've been through too much illegal shit for me to not love them. Like, those are my fucking dogs, bro. Yeah. But like, on the other hand, it's like, yeah, there isn't a existence, because infinite is so unimaginable because of what it is. That like, because everything on Earth ends.
Right.
At some point, the sun is going to stop and then all of this is done. Right. That's as far out realistically as you can take it. Right. Like with the sun is what sustains all this shit. And then
in
eventually,
this solar system.
Yeah, in the solar system. Right. And then eventually, the sun sustains the solar system.
Right.
And eventually the sun's going to fucking stop working. We know that.
Right.
Like scientifically, we know that eventually the bitch is going to run out of fuel to really dumb it down for my reading level. Like it's going to fucking stop. So then everything's over.
For humans, if they don't manage to colonize other solar systems.
That is one of the scariest Elon Musk quotes, dude. He went on the Nelk Boys podcast like a year ago. And he's talking about interstellar travel. And he goes, we will either become a multi-planet species or we won't.
Yeah.
And we won't because of nuclear weapons.
Oh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Because he specifically named nuclear weapons.
A single point of failure.
Yeah.
Well, the planet being a single point of failure and the nuclear weapons being the mechanism.
Exactly. And what's crazy about that is he is more concerned about AI taking over than nuclear weapons being a problem. But because AI will eventually be able to use nuclear weapons is just a tool. It's who's using it that ends humanity.
Right.
And it's going to be either humans or AI. You know what I mean?
Right, which is why he sees the only hope of humanity's existence persisting being to merge with AI.
Have you heard him talk about how to colonize Mars?
I don't think so.
Dude, there's a clip of him going on Colbert. He's wearing a shirt that says "Colonize Mars," and he's talking about how like Mars could be sustainable in like decades and how like that would look and all this kind of stuff. And Colbert goes, okay, well, wouldn't that require isn't the atmosphere like inhabitable? Wouldn't it like? He goes, yeah. There's a couple theories on how to change it, and he goes through a couple of them, and he goes, another one is to just really heat up Mars.
Right. Oh, he's talking about using nukes?
Yeah. And Colbert's like, heat it up? And he goes, yeah, just launch a bunch of nuclear weapons at Mars and heat up the atmosphere. And the look on his face is like, we can do that? Like, what the fuck?
Well, we have a lot of extra nuclear weapons lying around.
Dude.
Do you know why?
Of all the nuclear capable superpowers, I think we can destroy the world 540 times over or something like that.
With the combination of all of them?
Something absolutely ridiculous.
Has the question ever dawned on you, well, if we can destroy the whole world that many times, then why would we need that many?
Yeah. Fuck yeah, it has.
It dawned on, have you thought of an answer to it?
Because I don't think humans are that, like, complicated. I think it's a dick measuring contest. To put it in layman's terms, I think it's like, oh, well, so think about it so extrapolate this idea to, like, the tech conversation, right? It's like, oh, that's why Taiwan's such a big player because of the superconductors, right? It's like, okay, well, we need to be ahead of China in the cyber race, and Taiwan's a big player in that because they make all the superconductors. So if China's, to really dumb it down, okay, gaming computer, if China can make 100 gaming computers a year, we need to be able to make 110 a year. 120, 130, and it just scales that way. So then it's like, okay, well, their nuclear capabilities are better than our nuclear capabilities. If they can make, not even including hydrogen bombs, right? If they can make 50 atom bombs a year, we need to make 75. Oh, God, they can make 60 atom bombs a year and 20 hydrogen bombs. We need to make 80 nukes and 30 hydrogen bombs, and then you get into the fucking supersonic missiles that can fucking change course mid-air. So it's like, oh, well, if they have 20 of those supersonics, we need 25.
Right.
And it's because this goes back to the conversation about debt. It's the potential of what could happen and the collateral of what is.
So
right. So it's like, okay, if that means that if we know right now, this is dumbing down numbers. These numbers aren't real. If you're just dumbing down numbers, China can make 25 supersonic missiles a year. That means that next year they could probably make 35.
Right.
And then if we can extrapolate that, well, what do we not know about? What are they not telling us about? What tech do they have that we don't know about? And then it's that game. That's why I think it is. Because exactly, we don't need nuclear bombs, period.
Yeah.
No, I really
right.
think, no, dude, I really think that, like, that's why, like, people love Joe Rogan for, like, the product that he has, but people love Joe Rogan for the potential that he has, too, still. Like, I think, especially bros our age who listen to fucking Joe Rogan on a regular basis, we want him to sit down with Trump.
Right.
Biden, he won't really go anywhere because Biden's not there, right? But, like, let's say we had a Democratic candidate that was fucking worth a damn, right? But, like, we want Rogan to sit down with fucking Trump and Kim Jong-un and Putin and all these world leaders, and just because he's a regular guy with a shit ton of money. He's just a bro who loves lifting weights, loving his family, hunting deer, and telling jokes. What guy doesn't want to do that?
Right.
For a living. You know what I mean? So that's why we want to have this conduit of the average Joe sit down with these crazy fucking maniacs and be like, what's wrong with you?
Right.
Why? Like, again, I don't think Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, fucking Kim Jong-un or whichever one they're at right now, I don't think they're idiots. I really don't. I don't think they're stupid. I think they're in an echo chamber. All of them. And if you sat them all down in a fucking, and just let them, give them a couple of fucking, give them a whiskey or two.
Yeah.
I guess give Kim Jong some sake. I don't know what the fuck he drinks. Get him little sauced up, to use your own language, right?
Right.
But hey, man, being alive is kind of sick, right?
Yeah.
Can we not? Like, we have border disputes. We'll figure that out. But can we just not with the nukes? Bring the leader of Hamas in, too. Let him sit in the corner.
Yeah.
Like, can we just not bring Netanyahu in here, too? The leader of Israel, the president of Israel. Bring his stupid ass in here, too. Be like, hey, can we fucking not? Seriously, can we not? We'll figure out your fucking Muslim borders. We'll figure out how much of Russia absorbs the Donbass region or whatever of Ukraine and North Korea. Just stop being a dick. First of all, we'll start with that. No concentration camps, you fucking asshole. Can we just not?
Yeah.
Can we live? That's why, I don't know, dude, we don't need nukes.
No.
I think nukes should be fucking... But then here's the issue.
Okay.
Is that not everyone, and we're also playing under the assumption that NATO's a good force. Let's assume that NATO's a good thing. Okay.
Right.
Let's assume that NATO is a more good than it is bad. Let's assume that. And there's an argument both ways, which are both pro-America, by the way. I feel the conservatives tensing up their assholes, right? Let's assume NATO's a good thing. That means that NATO needs to have nukes because the enemies have nukes.
Right.
Right? It's the MAD, right? Mutually assured destruction.
Right.
Where it's like, well, they have nukes, so we have nukes, and our nukes are returned to their nukes.
Right.
Because if they launch their shit, we'll launch our shit, and we all die.
Right.
Why is that the solution? Can't we just live?
Yes.
You see what I'm saying?
I do. I thought about this a lot.
I don't mean to spit, but do you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do. So I thought about this a lot, and there's two points I want to make. The first one is that, so I thought about, okay, so you brought up the mutually assured destruction. That is like in a world where people can trust each other, even though they have, differing incentives, that is like the bare minimum, right? Is mutually assured destruction. So it's better than nothing. But that's
the standard right now, though.
Right.
That's the problem.
So I want to get into the whole blowing up the world 540 times or whatever. Okay, so if mutually assured destruction is the whole fucking game here right now, and I want it to get better, but that's the whole game right now, then you wouldn't need enough nukes to do that. Unless, and here's the thing that I figured out just by kind of thinking about the problem, not only do we have nukes, but we also have ways we have nuclear defense systems. So now, if I want to have mutually assured destruction with you, I need to know how many nukes you can stop. So if you can stop 100 nukes,
Right.
I need, and you take it, it takes 5 nukes to blow up your whole country. I need 105 nukes. So it's not only an arms race in terms of how many nukes you can build, it's how many nukes you can build plus how many nukes you can stop. And as long as how many nukes I can build plus how many nukes I can stop is bigger than your how many nukes you can build and how many nukes you can stop, then we're in the mutually assured destruction land.
You mean like debt?
Yes, exactly. Now, reason 2 why you might want a lot of nukes is maybe you know something about life on other planets that the general population doesn't, and you want some nuclear weapons
The
to
creation
deter.
of Space Force.
Yes, you might want some nuclear weapons to deter outside threats.
I've been trying to write a joke about that.
About the creation of Space Force?
Yes, and it is bugging the shit out of me why I can't get it. There's a threshold, I feel like, with political jokes where
Okay.
it's like you're stating political fact and it's something that it's not generalized enough, right? And then where you cross from political fact into political satire. And the joke I'm trying to write, because we all hear about that, where it's like, what happens when you really become president? You get sat down by like the Men in Black, and they're like,
Yeah.
like, hey man, so here's what's really happening in the Middle East. Here's what's really happening in Russia. Here's what's happening in Australia. Why don't you hear about Sweden? Because Sweden is a bunch of fucking whatever, right?
Right.
And so you hear about the real stuff going on in the world, and then it's like, okay, but off planet, we got the Dorkalocks, they're colonizing the Zinkenbergs, and we got to deal with that. But then we also got the Klinkenfracks over in Starship 9 that are dealing with the Dorkenforks over in the whatever, you know what I mean?
Right.
So my joke that I'm trying to write is that they briefed Donald Trump, and he got whacked out of his mind. Like, what the fuck is going on? Because he went from insulting supermodels to learning about aliens.
Yeah.
And then he climbs into bed with Melania, and she's on her 5th glass of whatever red wine she's on to be able to take that 2-inch Trump dick. And she's like, well, why don't you just create... I can't do a Russian accent or whatever the fuck she's from accent.
Yeah.
But why don't you just create a Space Force? And then he was like... I'll do it. And he creates the Space Force. But he's like not... Because if you watch his speeches after the creation of Space Force, when they ask him about Space Force, he's like a little kid that knows a secret. And he's like trying to like skirt around it, but he's like...
Like he really wants to tell you.
Yeah, exactly. He really wants to tell you, but he's holding it in. I'm trying to. It's like, I guess, like, so he channeled all his energy from aliens into Mexicans. That's why he wanted to build the wall so much.
Oh, like
Maybe that's the way I could take it.
That's a good. Yeah.
I don't know how to write that joke properly.
So there's a potential punchline in there, which is the illegal aliens.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure you've probably thought of that.
Right, exactly. Well, because of Roswell. That was the running joke of being at NIMI, is that Roswell's one of the only places that has both kind of aliens.
Right.
So, yeah, that's the joke I'm trying to write. Because like Trump creating Space Force because he learned about aliens. But so I think personally, it's more terrestrial issues than it is extraterrestrial. I don't think that we're trying to dude. If any percent above 2% of our nuclear force is dedicated to extraterrestrial shit, fuck it. Why should we even worry then? If it's if we have to dedicate a nuke to like Neptune?
Right. The Gorgon Florks on Neptune.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, what the fuck? And is that not more incentive for the world leaders to sit down and be like, yeah, the Gorgon Florks are fighting the Dinkin fucks over in, whatever, past the asteroid belt, and that's coming here, and however many hundreds of years we just set ourselves. You know what I mean? Like, you would think that, because that's always
more
like
incentive to do.
Well, that's like the running theory, right? Is like the only thing that brings humans together is an extraterrestrial thing attacking all of humanity.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's like a running theory where it's like have you read Watchmen, the comic book? Dude, are you a big comic book guy? Okay. If there's any comic book you should read, it's Watchmen. And I mean, it's a fucking 30, 45-year-old book. Okay, so at the end of the book, I won't say who the villain is, because that's a spoiler, but like at the end of the book, the villain, who's a surprise villain, his whole idea is that because Watchmen takes place during the Cold War. And so it's like Nixon is in an arms race with Russia, and then we've got the Cuban Missile Crisis that had happened, and we have all these issues, right? We have all these issues going on, and it's like, okay, well, we need to beat the Soviets in their race to make nukes. The race to the moon's happening still, and all that type of stuff. And so the villain of the story is like, but that's what makes Watchmen so good is like, is he a villain? Because he's a superhero.
Okay.
I'll say that. I won't spoil it, but he's a superhero. And he goes, the only thing that would save humanity is a collective enemy. And what he does, and the movie's awesome. Like, I have gripes with the movie by Zack Snyder, but I love the Watchmen movie. But this is the big difference between the book and the movie. In the book, the villain manages to teleport or open up another dimension or open a portal to another dimension, and he brings this giant like octopus alien into New York.
Like Mass Effect style?
Yeah, kinda. And it destroys New York, kills millions of people, and the whole world is like, oh, fuck, we knew about these vigilantes, but what the fuck is that? And they defeat the alien, and it brings humanity together, and there's world peace and all these things. And it proved the villain right.
The villain being the Watchman.
No. I won't say who the villain is.
Oh, okay.
No, but the villain.
Because you're saying the Watchman.
Yeah, the Watchman is like a fucked up Justice League.
Are they the ones who are responsible for bringing the alien in?
No.
Oh,
no. The
okay.
Watchmen. So there's two teams of superheroes. It's the Minutemen from the 40s and the 50s, and the Watchmen in the 60s and the 70s, or the 60s, I guess. And the Watchmen are just this like, when the story begins, they're disbanded, but they used to be this like hyper realistic Justice League. Right, bunch of fucked up characters with horrible lives and that dress up as vigilantes and killed bad guys or beat up bad guys. A lot of them killed them and that type of stuff. Right, it's a hyper realistic look at enemies, at villains, at superheroes, and all that kind of stuff. But this person, the villain of the story, manages to bring a alien to Earth, kills millions of people in New York, but the whole world bands together. And it's like, hey, we have bigger problems than ourselves. And then world peace becomes a thing. And it's like, okay, was he wrong for doing that? Was he right for doing that? And that's the big question of
it, right?
That's
the end of the story?
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's the end of the story. So then I just bring that up because it's like, there needs to be a collective enemy, which is unfortunate about humans because we're tribalistic. There needs to be a collective enemy outside of ourselves for all of us to band together against. But the issue is that each major world leader has a different idea of what a collective enemy is. You know what I mean? And as we're learning more about history, what actually happened, as we're seeing things play out now, America is still the greatest country to live in. But our government are some evil people that have done some evil things to innocent people around the world. We have pissed off pretty much everybody, but we have a stranglehold on power and money, which is why it's so concerning with like that new currency that like China, Iran, and India, North Korea,
Russia
are trying to agree on, like
to use as the new reserve currency.
They're trying to remove from the American dollar into something else, and that's why it's so concerning. It's that that's what makes us have a foothold in everybody else. It's our dollar and our military power.
And if over time we screw over enough people, we become their collective enemy.
We become the bad guy.
Thinking about that bunker, bro.
But that was a damn good question, dude. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to think about that for a long time because I don't have an answer. Because the selfish human part of me is like, take me out in the fucking blast.
Yeah.
I don't want to be here. And fuck, God knows my heart. God knows who I am. I don't want to be I don't want to be a radioactive missionary, bro. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
But then also, the people that are called to do God's work in the Bible didn't want to do it.
Yeah. And
they didn't want to.
If beyond the idea of being a radioactive missionary, what if, think about it in the longer term, like, what if even you could do something in your life that 4 generations down the line would lead to the rebuilding of society, you know?
Right. And that's an idea that's really perpetuated by like the American dream. But we look into like Greek mythology and Roman mythology, and we see stuff like that happen. And we hear about those stories, and it's a beautiful thing to think about it. I just don't put a whole lot of stock into it, just because how many people are alive. And then if we all get nuked off, how many people actually have an effect, and like how far does the nuke set us back, and you know what I mean? So I see what you're saying, and it has standing. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't want to be a radioactive missionary. That scares the fuck out of me, bro. Yeah. I just, again.
Well, hopefully you'll have some time to think about it.
Well, I fucking hope, dude. I don't know, man. Like, with how much, and I think the woke culture is starting to end, and like the mass canceling, all that stuff. I think it's coming to an end. And I really hope we stay alive long enough and we don't nuke each other long enough for the internet to reach potential. Where it's like we all connect to each other and we all share. Because humans, individual humans are unique, right? Like how we operate, how we think, the way we see things. It's unique enough to make it individualized. Like you are different from me, obviously, right? But our interests aren't that dissimilar.
Right.
We can find a lot of common ground. You know what I mean? But I'm hoping that if enough time is allowed to pass, that the internet reaches enough people where it's like, yeah, man, I really don't think I'm that much different. If we sat down and had a rational conversation, I don't think that my interests are that much different than Putin's.
Right.
Than fucking Bibi Netanyahu. Or fucking Kim Jong-un even, or I legitimately forget which one they're on right now. But like, I don't think my interests are that different than theirs when it comes to like who they are. Are they a fucked up person like Kim Jong? Yeah, he runs North Korea. He is a fundamentally fucked up human being. But did he choose to be that way? Was he raised that way?
Probably a little bit of both.
It's probably more of him being raised that way because of the family he's in. You know what I mean? I don't think my interests are that much different than Trump's or RFK's or fucking Biden's even, if he can remember his interests. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite bits of like the last 5 years is Shane Gillis, where it's like he's comparing how Biden and Trump debate, and how Trump's like he goes, "Your son did crack." And he's like talking shit to Biden, right? And Biden's like, "What?"
Like he legitimately doesn't remember.
He's just confused.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Like even like you and I, like we have different things we're into, but we have a lot more in common than we do otherwise. If that wasn't the case, we wouldn't have sat down for damn near 3 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And you see that same optimism in every human.
In most people.
Yeah.
You have psychopaths. You have crazy, legitimately evil people. You have that. But more often than not, you just have people that want to be left alone, live their lives, contribute in one way or another in what they feel is valuable to society. When you remove, which I love that you brought up, next time you come on the podcast, I want to talk about that, the effects of social media, pornography, phone usage, all that type of stuff. When you remove that, when you remove those temptations, and it's like, how do you want to contribute to society? Right? You have people that want to contribute in a meaningful way. They want to raise a family. They want to love somebody. Maybe love a couple of people. Who the fuck knows, right? You live your life. Who the fuck knows? Mm-hmm. But people just want to be left alone. You know what I mean? They just want to live their lives and not hurt other people when unprovoked.
Right. Yeah. I have, with all this fucked up shit, I have like a little light of optimism. So in any of your personal relationships, surely at some point or another, something difficult has come up and probably someone got hurt and you had to have some tough conversations, but it worked out in the end, right? Oh, for at least one of them. For at least one of your personal relationships.
I would even say like for, I won't use my most recent relationship out of respect for her.
Right.
Because she watches this podcast every now and again. But I'll use my ex-fiance.
Okay.
She broke, and she knows she did too. She broke my heart, dude. Like she fucked me up for a little bit. But as time went on, it was like, oh, yeah, no, you and I shouldn't have worked out. It was a mutual benefit.
Right.
So no, you're completely right about what you said. Like there, and that was also like excluding, like there was no domestic abuse.
Right.
I never beat or assaulted her. She never did anything to me. It was just a bad relationship that fucking exploded and it went the way it went. But we both recognized that, like, especially how young we were, where we were in our lives, we weren't going to work out, and it was better that we didn't. It was legitimately better than we didn't.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you're completely right about that.
So your guys' relationship, and I don't mean like your romantic relationship because that obviously ended, but like how you two know each other, ultimately resolved in a harmony. Which, being that you're separated and it's better for both of you.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe the relationship of all of the humans in the planet has to go through some really fucked up shit before a harmony is reached, and maybe that's what all this is.
I would agree, but there still has to be a synergy. Like there's still like me and my ex-fiance never have to talk again. We don't have to do that.
Right.
Like that's not a thing for both of us to survive.
Right.
But if you decide to be a fucking world leader, or if that is thrust upon you, you have to interact with everybody else that are running other countries.
Right.
Like you have to do that. Like my household doesn't have to interact with my ex-fiance's household to make sure we both survive.
In any sort of direct manner.
Not at all.
Well, you are dependent and contributing to the same society.
Right. But
which is also what the world leaders are doing.
Okay, yes, but they have to all talk to each other because that's like world economies happen. The economy of my household does not affect hers, and hers, thank Christ, probably doesn't affect mine. You know what I mean?
Right. In the grand scheme of things, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? So that's not I'm just making a joke. Not to shit on her, but you just fucking listen to this. Who cares? But it's not a thing. You know what I mean? But at the level you reach, it is like that's why I never understood why Trump didn't get the well, I mean, because he's Trump, he didn't get the recognition that he deserved for it. But like Trump, you know, not for nothing, but he managed to get the leaders of North and South Korea to shake hands.
Yeah. That's some good shit, dude.
That's insane. How did that not get more recognition? You know what I mean? So those at that level, you have to interact.
Oh, yeah.
You have to. I mean, you even take it down to like I was talking to fucking Barney Lopez, right? And he does the booking for Launchpad. Even he recognized that it would be probably better for the state of New Mexico, for Albuquerque, if like him and his people from, you know, Launchpad, El Rey, Sunshine, Moonlight, all that, if Inside Out, if they coordinated events with Revel and Isleta, if they all worked together synergetically to make the most money,
right,
it would probably be better. But they fucking don't.
Right.
Because, you know, humans. I don't know. Yeah.
I guess just my point is that it looks pretty bad, but maybe it's not. Maybe that's just part of the way things get resolved in the in the end, you know.
I see what you're saying.
So, but I'm still thinking about the bunker because because maybe shit has to get really bad before it gets resolved. You know what I'm saying? And
well, I appreciate the gumption to want to survive the really bad. I appreciate that on some level. Have fun.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that, but at least if I had a meaning to my life, then that would be good enough.
That's fair. Listen, man, this has been a lot of fun. I knew that it would be. Mm-hmm. This was a lot of fun. I'm very proud of what you're doing with the podcast. There needs to be more people doing, what we're doing. I really believe that. Like, it's good. Mm-hmm. It's good for entertainment. It's good for exposure. And at the end of the day, it's just a good fucking time.
Yeah.
It's fucking fun. Where can people find you, your podcast, all your shit going on? Where can they find it?
Yeah, so the podcast is the 505 Connection. It's called that on all of the platforms that I currently have it on, which are Instagram at the 505 Connection, YouTube at the 505 Connection, and Spotify, the 505 Connection. Not currently on Apple Podcasts, but I will be soon. At this moment in time, I don't have any personal socials. I do have a retired music project on Instagram, which is at the Cosmic Garden. Yeah, once I feel a little bit more safe about the bunker and, the World Economic Forum and all that, I'm going to pick that back up. So,
well, listen, dude, this has been a blast. I want to do it again soon.
Yes, sir.
This was sick. Before we get out of here, I want to say this on camera. Have you gotten in contact with Ray Garza?
No, he does the People's Cup, though.
Yes.
I remember I listened to that podcast.
You two need to be talking. I will give you his socials and all that shit. Like, you two need to be fucking talking.
Excellent.
Yes, that would be really good. Yeah, he's really good at this shit, too. I love his podcast. He's a lot of fun, and he's a good guy. So, all right. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and we will see you next time. Bye, everybody.